solution, a custom solution that either couldn't get finished, or by the time that it's close to being finished, the technology shifted and it's not as efficient or as effective because they weren't thinking about what's ahead. And I think that's one of the things that most of my team, we're really trying to wrap our head around the Web3, blockchain, tokenization of assets, smart contracts, AI, integration, things like that, we may not do it, but we know that's where technology is going. And if we know where it's going and we look at where our client is and they say, this is our long-term goal, a lot of times they're asking for something that they aren't ready for yet. And so what we're saying is, okay, this is where you want to get, but you're here. So let's do a holistic roadmap of what that may look like, so that what we build here is positioned for the next thing, positioned for the next thing. So instead of a rip and replace, thinking or methodology, it's we're tweaking, we're modifying, we're adding new features versus, oh, we designed this completely wrong, and now this new thing we have to start over and design it a different way. So I think for the clients, if you're interviewing a technical consulting company, or you want to look to do some custom work or outsource some work, how is their solution aligning with your long-term goal? Do they understand what you're trying to accomplish as a company long-term? And are they providing a solution that would not be a rip and replace in 3 years, 5 years, as fast as technology is advancing? So it really takes a good amount of discovery. It takes a good amount of research and really understanding the client's business and have experience in that and saying, okay, based on what you're telling me, here's where you want to go. We're on that same page, and this is a long-term goal. Here are the solutions we believe get you there, and this is why. And you need to be able to answer the why.
So how do you deal with this? Like, suppose someone comes to you and they say, hey, I want you to build me something that will increase revenue for grocery stores. Like, obviously you need more detail on that, right? So how do you 'cause a lot of regular people have no idea how to talk and develop it. Like they have no idea user stories. They have no idea schematics. Like, how do you deal with that?
So when let's just use that as an example, they want to increase revenue. Well, there's lots of ways you can increase revenue. So are your internal processes not as efficient as they could be? Are we looking at internal policies and processes and technology that's used internally, that's just your own infrastructure, your own how you communicate and do things interdepartment, or is it technologies that's used to interact with your client, your end user, and improving that, either efficiencies or productivity or a combination of both. And so we typically start with trying to understand the landscape. So first we do a thorough discovery, understand the landscape of what are we dealing with, what are important issues, what are the known problems, what are the known pain points, the known inefficiencies. And once we get the whole picture and we understand from each department what's important to them and what they're trying to accomplish, we talk to the C-suite. This is our overall vision of where we're trying to go. We may uncover some unrealized problems that the left hand doesn't know the right hand's doing, and there's something in the middle that's causing a problem. When we look at the whole picture, we can actually step back and say, okay, what's going to be some good solutions? And then we try to systematically present solutions that will step by step, walk them into the direction they want to go.
So how about this instance? Like, suppose y'all agree with the build, you have it 95% built, and they come back, oh, I know I said I wanted this, but now I'll make this one small change, right? But that's small.
That's through the whole process.
Okay.
There's not a client that doesn't come in,
Okay.
and I'm sure if any of the developers and other CEOs of tech consulting companies are watching this podcast or laughing, that happens all the time.
So how do you deal with that? I mean, do you say, hey, small boy, hey, client, if I do this, is I add this much to the end cost at this time, or?
The right business answer is that you've designed an agreement that has clearly defined the scope of the work and clearly defines what's out of scope and how out of scope changes and additions are going to be dealt with monetarily. Now, depends on how savvy those decision makers your client is. If your client isn't real tech savvy and they want to do these changes, but they really don't understand the impact of what that's going to do to the budget, the timeline, and everything else, you have to be patient and you have to be a teacher and you have to be able to communicate well and explain, here's what you're doing to the project. This is what we agreed to. This change means this, this, and this. Is this really the change that you want to make?
Yeah.
And is this a priority? And, I think, that is what I think birthed the agile methodology, the Scrum methodology, and project management is, that you're being able to start a project, but you're flexible to change. You're not stuck that this is the way it has to go all the way to the end. There's changes are made and you have to start all the way back over again. So you do little bits, you test and say, is this the right way to go? Are you happy with the direction? Do we need anything different? If we do need to make changes, let's make it now because it's less cost effective and we can do that and pivot slightly. And so that's how we kind of address it. But that's a constant. I don't think it's just part of the business. I think if you get frustrated because a client is requesting a change order all the time, then you're in the wrong business because it just happens. I mean, it's the way ideas, think about it. How many, we can look at whether you like Windows or not. Windows operating system is a pretty good operating system. How many iterations have they made? When it started, how's it progressed, right? So no one thought of the end product from the beginning and said, okay, it's going to be wonderful without any changes or any upgrades or anything. It's just perfect. So everything is constant change, constant upgrade, constant improvement. There is no such thing as we're going to make it. It's going to be perfect. And we're just going to walk away.
When a client comes to you, what should they have? Should they just have an idea on a napkin? They have to have the UX design already done, schematics done. Like what's your looking for?
We can help with any stage of that. We've worked with, I think 3 of our clients this last year have been in various stages of startup founders that one's got a concept and just trying to get some prototype built. Some are, we got the prototype and we just need to increase our staff on our development team. Others are, we need a little bit more direction. We need to now shift and build this out. So we need this specialty. So we've kind of helped in different stages of these projects. So I think we are open. I mean, it doesn't cost anything to talk about an idea and how would you approach this and give some, advice. Our whole hope is that our approach means that you can maybe realize, get your idea into a prototype or a working model, an MVP, minimal viable product, $10,000 to $30,000 versus, $50,000 to $100,000. And so that way it's less money to get your idea to a point that you can get users to give feedback. And if it's really attractive, then you can spend more money or raise more money into building out those features.
So 2-part question. First part is like, does the tech stack matter at all? And do you prefer for the client to pick the tech stack or do you prefer to pick the tech stack or a combination?
So tech stack matters because you could pick the wrong tech stack, the outcome and what it's going to do determines, are you going to have to rip and replace it or is it just an adjustment? So that matters. Full disclosure, I'm not a developer. My coding is, HTML, some basic JavaScript, CSS a little bit. I'm more design, sales, the consulting side of it. But I do know enough to say that the tech stack matters. I like to believe that, we should rely on our solution architect that we bring in to design the solution. We make sure that we've given the solution architect the right parameters, the right information, and their recommendation based on the outcomes that we wanted is what we should go with. I always think that mistakes are made because there's not enough questions asked in the beginning. There's not a thorough knowledge of where is this really trying to go. And the goal has been moved too close. It's like, we just need to get here. And I'm always asking, like, well, where do you want to be in 5 years? You know, it's fine if you just do this, but if you're not trying to see how this fits into the bigger picture, 9 times out of 10, you're going to be on the wrong, the wrong mark. And I read this in a book somewhere that it's kind of like climbing rungs on a ladder. And if you're only focused on the rung on the ladder, when you get to the top, you may realize you're on the wrong wall. Like you're not even on the wrong wall. You went up a ladder, but you're not even where you wanted to go. So I think, I know there's clients out there that are, yep, we've spent money on that, and we understand that. And so I think going into it, it's great that people have ideas. Let's try to get your idea built and realized in a usable way, as cheap as possible, so you can, I think that's why a lot of things fail, is because they put too much money into a bad idea or an idea that wasn't fully vetted, and they've used up all the money. But instead of 100,000, if you can get that for 10 or 15,000, now you can either iterate on that idea and improve it really well before it gets out there, so it has longer market stability. Or you may realize something after that's done. Oh, maybe this isn't the best product, but I have like $85,000 more that I can put towards this other idea that this kind of hatched, and now we can morph this into something better.
So best case scenario, how should a developer, CTO, design person, product manager work together?
Lots of communication. Lots of communication and transparency. And so if we are talking about, like, within a company and an IT department that they're trying to build something internally or improve some internal process, well, of course you have corporate hierarchy, that the CTO and everybody has their role. If you are a founder and you're trying to get your idea built, you're going to have a product owner. Someone's going to own the end result of what you're trying to accomplish. You're going to have a project manager that's going to manage the team, the dev team. You're going to have a solution architect that's going to, decide what tech stack, how this is going to be built, how many people we need, what specials do we need? Do we need front end, back end, full stack? What technologies are we using, and what specialists do we need to bring this in, and where do we get them, and how much experience do we need? So they put all that together, and then they just communicate. And then usually from the business side, obviously I'm communicating with the team to make sure they're happy, communicating with the client, sitting in meetings, making sure that it's being delivered as instructed or as it's supposed to. And if not, what do we need to do to fix it or change it?
So I'm guessing a developer will either work for the CTO or the lead developer. Who does the designer usually work for?
They all work in the way we run it. We have everybody working for everyone on the dev team. So you're going to have your, like, UX, UI designer. Everybody's working for the project manager of that team that then answers to the product owner that's representing the customer of what's needed, because so the project manager between the product owner, it's kind of that hierarchy. So the developers, the technical people, the designers, they're all part of the team, and they all kind of, and the way we set up, they all report to the project manager, who manages the whole thing. And then that project manager works with, the product owner, which is usually on the client side, that is saying, yes, this is what, this isn't.
What's the max numbers of clients you can handle right now?
We're really a really small team. The maximum we can onboard is about, one new client a month.
Okay.
And so when we started this, for me, this is a retirement play. This is a thing I want to do for long term. So we didn't have like a short term, we got to reach a certain point in a year or 2 years or 3 years. If we don't, we're just shutting the door.
So this is more of a small business versus a tech startup, right?
Right. This is we are growing this consulting company to continue forever. If, you know, we get busier, we can grow. Now, you say, well, what's the comparison? Obviously, the top is going to be your Deloitte's, your Accentures, your Capgemini's, those, you get into that level. We're just starting. But again, I don't have a timeline on it. Like, I plan on doing this for the next, hopefully 50 plus years, however long I'm on this planet. So, we want to do it right. We want to, learn and develop and implement the right tools and the right systems, and we don't want to rush it. And so we're literally kind of, I don't know what the old, I don't know if it was E.F. Hutton or Charles Schwab or somebody back in the day was like, we're building it one client at a time. Whatever that, commercial was, that's kind of what we're doing. We're kind of just building one client at a time, get one project done, making sure that's done well, and move on to the next one. So we're talking to a few clients, but again, we're not trying to pressure them. I think there's also an element of, I think clients have bought into the idea of a project that's probably a bad project and they shouldn't have gotten into it in the first place, and then are unhappy just because they were sold an idea from the technical consultant. Oh, this is what you need. And then you get halfway through it, and then it's like, yeah, we don't need this anymore. Wasted a bunch of money. We don't want to do that. So we'd rather make sure you're really comfortable with what you're doing. Make sure it really sinks in. It's really going to be a benefit to you. Otherwise, we don't.
Is there really a difference? Is there any difference in like talent, skill, anything else between like US developers and offshore developers besides the price point?
There's all kinds of differences. I think, um, I think the first thing you do is understand your budget, because the budget is what drives everything. And then within that budget, how can you get the best talent for the money? And and that could be literally anywhere in the world. There is great talent here in the US onshore, and there's a variety of different price points. It might mean that, you know, maybe you're wanting a time zone, you want to get a little bit better discount. And so you're going to Latin America or Central America, you're going Mexico South. Um, so you have a time zone, same time zone, similar time zone, um, not a problem. Maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe time zone doesn't matter. There's 60+% of all software is developed and outsourced to India, Pakistan, the Philippines. And there are great developers there. There's great developers in Ukraine and Eastern Europe and Europe. And I mean, there's great developers everywhere. That I think there's project managers out there trying to build a team and put that together. The hard part is the time, how much time it takes and how much effort it takes to find the right skill set for what you're looking for. And so we try to have partners that may help us streamline some of our, sourcing of talent. And so, because you can have developers that look good on paper, they even test good. But when you get into the culture of a team and a project, and as a team, the project needs to shift. And I'll give you an example. So if you have a full stack developer and maybe their expertise is more on the front end, but they've said, hey, we're full stack, I know back end, and I've tested okay, and I know the back end. Well, they get on that project, and the project manager says, hey, we need to focus more on the back end, so we need to move resources over to work on the database side of things. We want you to stop doing this for right now. We want to pivot to this. And you're 6 months into a project, and they're like, yeah, no, I only do front end. Well, you tested it and you said yeah, but I don't know. And we're like, really? And now you have to find somebody else. So I know that anyone's listening who's like a technical staffing recruiter or in the technical staffing, and that's all that they do. It's like shaking their head like, yep, happens all the time. So you need, if you don't have that skill set or don't have that time to invest in that, it's good to outsource that to a company that does have those connections that can do that for you. It's going to save you time and energy and frustration to make sure you have fully vetted technical staff on your team. So
I think it's a challenge for everyone, right? Just not developers. I think I probably get blasted for saying this. Like, I think too many developers, marketers, well, let's say like too many fill in the blank think they're better than they are, right? I mean, too many people think they're the bee's knees, so to speak. And like, no, are you really like, like I know like developers, like they're always, building something on GitHub. They never finish it, right? Or I know like used car salesmen, like never sell a car, right? It's like,
I think that's everybody. I mean,
it is, but we're saying that like,
everyone tries to say they're, everyone tries to put their best foot forward, and they're trying to get a job.
well, it has to be some
and
there has to be some kind of truth to it, right?
Yeah, there definitely has to be truth.
Like you can't say you're an expert Python coder and you've only taken a Python 101 class, right? I think too many developers, like, give them the tech stack. The tech stack says, I've never done it, but I can learn that in a couple of days. Are you sure you can learn that in a couple of days? Are you sure about that, guy?
Some can't.
I mean, some can. Don't be wrong.
So yeah, I've worked with some developers.
So how do you get
that
through
are
all the bullshit?
Extremely brilliant, and it blows me away on how their mind works, and they can learn stuff extremely fast. The one thing I can say is you're not getting that talent for cheap.
Oh, no. Oh, definitely not.
Period. Just don't even think about it.
No.
Don't think you're going to get somebody that is that brilliant.
Developers definitely know their value. Ain't no doubt about that.
You're going to get, more times than not, you get kind of what you pay for. There is a lot, and I think, true developers will clap at this, but I think AI has done more to hurt true development, than make it better, because I think it's made software engineers lazier, though, at least the junior ones. The guys that have been banging out code line by line and know it inside and out. That's not how the junior devs out of college or technical school are developing. Like, they're understanding the concept, a little bit of language, and they're throwing it into ChatGPT or some sort of AI thing to help write the rest of the code. And one of our former clients, who I have a lot of respect for, they do an amazing job of the code test that's live, that they can't use any help, and they need to just talk through and think through the problem. Mm-hmm. So back end is a lot of mathematics and analytics, and so are you really strong in math? Can you problem solve? So the CTO will walk through, with the developer problem, and they'll start with a simple problem. When it's, solve this, they'll solve it. Okay, if we change this, and this, now solve it, makes it a little bit more complicated. And so how deep can that developer go in their logic and their thinking to solve the problem?
And with no help.
With no help. They're just having a conversation.
Isn't that an unfair test, right? Because they're doing for real, wouldn't they be using help?
No, because they need to know it. Because they need to know if it's right or wrong. I mean, if you're dealing with a massive database and you're off a little bit, you're screwing a lot of things up. And so I think it's a brilliant way. And I think I believe if you're a developer and you love code, you should really embrace that craft and only use AI tools to speed up the development, not to do your work for you. Like, if do the thinking and then have it do the mundane work, to just put it there, and then know that you can check it over and find, okay, nope, this is wrong. But I think we've seen too many junior devs that have been doing one thing for 8 years, and they say they're a senior dev just because they've been doing that one thing for 8 years. And it's like, really, no.
And there's that too, yeah.
Like, no, you're not a senior dev.
I'm a senior dev now. I'm a full stack engineer.
Yeah, you're a senior at doing that one thing at that one place, and that's it. But when it comes to the world of where's your skill set, no, you're not.
Here's a question for you. Let's put you got a hire developer, right? There's 3 of them. They're all like, every test they're pretty equal, right? I mean, there's really they're all equal, right? Same sex, same everything, same age, whatever. But one is from a coding academy. One, let me rephrase that. One's from an average coding academy. One's from an average college with a 4-year degree. And one is a graduate of YouTube University. Which one are you picking?
So why I believe in higher education, and I believe that there's some benefit to that, I would actually lean to the one that's got the best attitude and how they're approaching the problem and how they approach their work. And just, not knowing, obviously the situation is hypothetical, I would probably say that the YouTube developer might actually have the best attitude because they did it on their own. They took initiative, and they're probably naturally curious. And this is what they do for fun. It's a hobby. They spend 60 hours a week trying to figure this stuff out, versus someone who their mom or dad told them to go to college and they got this engineer degree and they kind of hate it, but they're doing it, and their attitude sucks.
Yeah. So change the subject, but we'll go back to tech in a minute.
Sure.
For sales, is there a different approach between B2B sales versus other sales, or sales basically sales, regardless of what the thing is?
Sales is very different. And I think if someone says sales is the same, no matter if you're knives or vacuum cleaners door to door, or if you're selling Girl Scout cookies, or you're consulting with a Fortune 500 company on a complete multi-million-dollar software deal, or changing out their infrastructure to 1,000 locations across the country or across the world, those are very different and very different approaches, and it's not the same. And I think for me, in my mindset, you can read books, Challenger Sale, Medic, MEDDICC is the book that is a methodology that a lot of strategic enterprise level sales and consulting is kind of following. There's a lot of different books that kind of help you become a better salesperson or consultant. But for me, in my mind, the professionalism transitions from sales to consulting when what you're selling is not transaction, and what you're selling is a solution that takes buy-in from multiple people. You're just talking to one person and you're selling them this one thing as transaction. You buy it for X amount of dollars. That's sales. Because it's just transactional, it really doesn't matter. But if you're building a relationship, if you have more people involved, then it's not a thing of like, oh, let me put together a pitch and sell you this and see if you want it. It's understanding that client's business, understanding what that client is trying to accomplish, what they're trying to do, where they're trying to go with their company, and then creating some solutions based on that and letting the client decide what's best for them without any manipulation, without any, trickery or, smoke and mirrors to get them to do one thing over the other. It's really what is going to be best for you. And so it's taking it from a transactional sales mindset to presenting successful solutions that the customer wants to buy from you, that the client wants to to buy, and they're in control of deciding, okay, I want option A is going to be best for us.
When you're doing sales, how often should you follow up? Should you be like, okay, I'll follow up with Michael Jones 3 times. Y'all sales will talk to me. Or do you keep on following up until the person tells you no?
Following up as far as prospects,
Yeah.
like getting new
Yeah.
business.
Yeah.
The post-COVID, the rule of thumb is, really you need to do what's called an omni-channel approach, right? So you're not just doing one thing to reach out and you're doing it over and over and over again. You're doing email, you're doing LinkedIn, social media, phone calls, finding mutual events that you can go and, interact with. And you're doing that not just to the one decision maker, but you're doing it with different people in the company, because there's different people that can influence, that you can get through the door. And I think the old school, is like throw a yellow pages at you and dial for dollars and just keep dialing until you get somebody. That's the old school way of sales and prospecting, and that's just garbage now. It's are you putting some thought behind it? Are you understanding the organizational structure? Are you considerate of people's time that you're interacting with? They're busy. They're C-level executives that have a million things to do. They're working 60 plus hours a week, and their time is valuable. So, are you writing this long? It's funny to me because you put CEO on your, LinkedIn profile, and people send me emails all the time. There's this
All the time.
freaking long book that I get the one line and I'm like, yeah, I don't got time for that.
Yeah. That's my thing. Like,
And if you send it to me 2 or 3 times, I'll just spam it. And I don't even know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Because so I personally recommend short, sweet, be direct, very clear, don't be real wordy, and be transparent. Say, here's who I am. Here's what I want to talk to you about. When do you have time?
Yeah.
And just do that. And then maybe connect on LinkedIn, figure out what they're interested about. Chances are the person that you want to talk to or someone from that company is going to some sort of event, public event, that you would have mutual interest. So make it a point to go to that event and talk to them or participate in that event. And so they get to know you. And after you've done this omni-channel approach, I've heard several different trainings on 18 to 21 to 28 times over a 45-day period to try to connect with a company. Different angle. Like, that's the level of effort you should do before you stop. And I'm in this day and age, when you have opt out and people can just instantly put your email into a blacklist that they don't even get the emails because their system now is blocked.
Yeah.
Right. So you definitely, those that spam, and I know there's a big push on AI, automated marketing and all this stuff, lead gen, that really no one is behind it, but AI is just constantly barraging people with all of this stuff. That to me is just flooding the system with garbage.
Yeah. I know me, whenever I get a message, either email linked to whatever, and it's like 20 paragraphs, single space, I don't want to read. I just delete it. Like, because I can't read all that mess, right? My eyes don't. I need like broken down, like double space, or at least paragraphs, like 2-3 sentences, paragraph break, 2-3 sentence paragraph break. Just like 10,000 words, like single space. Yeah, I can't fuck with that.
No, people don't have time. I mean, I think salespeople, or when you're trying to prospect with a client, don't realize that person, if they're a decision maker for their company, probably gets several hundred emails a day.
Yeah.
And they literally don't have the time to do their job and go through their email by reading every single email all the way through.
No.
Just, it doesn't happen anymore. There's no way to do that. So you need to be smart. I have so many, I read the first couple lines and I'm like, yeah, you don't even know what I do.
And what kills me, like, I'll get an email, it'll be like, hi, Jason, we do this, and this. or something. It'll be like John Brown, no company, no nothing. Like I don't know what the fuck you do. There's no social proof.
Yeah.
Like, are you on LinkedIn? Like, what,
That's
like,
block and spam.
yeah,
That's what that is.
yeah,
That's like, yeah, I'm not, you shouldn't hide who you're with. You should be pretty transparent.
yeah,
You should be like, I understand your time's busy. I'm going to be respectful
yeah,
of your time. And I only ask literally for like just a few minute conversation
yeah,
that I can, if they're going to take 5 minutes out of their day to set up a quick virtual meeting
yeah,
and just real quick, what's important to you?
yeah,
Here's what I'm about. I'm here to help and support you. Is there anything in the next 12 months? And that's the other thing is I put my time horizon out over the budget year or the next 2 years, right? If we're already into this year's budget may already be set. And there's nothing new is going to happen this year. It's
yeah,
all about what's happening next year. So, okay, when do you review your budget?
yeah,
So I always say, before that budget is set for either this year or next year, can we get 5-10 minutes?
yeah. Like build a relationship, so to speak.
Just 5 or 10 minutes. And you know what? In that meeting, I stick to that 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Even if the call's going well and they keep wanting to ask questions and talk, I'm like, hey, I promise you, I just wanted 5 or 10 minutes. It does sound like there's some interest here. It does sound like there's some things we could do. Could we schedule another half hour
Yeah.
and we could pull in some other people maybe and have a more robust conversation? And they appreciate that because I'm respecting their time. They're not, I'm not, okay, 5 minutes, and then it turns into an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And then it's like, what happens is that executive at the end is like, this guy tricked me into talking, said 5 minutes.
Even though it was him.
Yeah. And then it's not, yeah. And then if they're not going to move forward, now they're late for their other meeting and now you've created problems and, you just have to stick to what you say you're going to do.
How often do you use the phone, so to speak, either like actually cold calling someone you don't know or using the phone, like maybe calling like a warm lead? How integral is the phone to your sales process?
Because I'm focused, we're here in Seattle general area and the Pacific, focused on like the West Coast for the most part. But anywhere in the US, I would call as part of, I would shoot an email, connect with LinkedIn, do some research, understand about the company, maybe email 2 or 3 or 4 people that would be in management leadership and connect with them on LinkedIn or social media. And then I would follow up with a phone call, but I'd space it out after a few days because chances are they've read it. They didn't need anything, but I can reference that in my phone call. Like, hey, I've sent you an email. I connect with you on LinkedIn. I was just seeing if I can get a couple minutes of your time to see if we can put something on the calendar sometime this year. Doesn't have to be right now. And when there's no sense of urgency in your voice and like, oh, can we meet, tomorrow at 2:00 or Thursday at 4, give them a choice. Well, if it's in a week and they're busy for the next month, the answer is going to be no. And that's it. And now you've lost your opportunity.
Yeah, that goes me too. We all got emails from someone, hey, Jason, great things you're doing, Kevin's HR. We, blah, blah, blah. Here's 2 times to meet tomorrow. Tomorrow? Are you fucking kidding me right now?
Yeah.
Have you lost your fucking mind tomorrow?
Yeah. So I always say within 12 months, can we get something on the calendar?
Yeah.
And I'll follow up with you like 30 days before.
Like, send me your calendar link and let me schedule something.
Yeah.
But you have to call me like, yeah, this is
but it's a methodology of, don't give them a open slate, pin them down to give them a choice, this or this.
The choice is neither.
Yeah, it could be neither. And so I always just say, look, I want you to know that it doesn't have to be right away.
Yeah.
It's when it's convenient for you. I'm fine with that. What does that look like?
Yeah. I always say anything available in the next 3 weeks. And what I do, and not saying this right or wrong, I say any available to talk to you next 2 or 3 weeks. You have a schedule that you can send me, or I can send you mine, right? I go from there, right?
Yeah. No, that's a fair timeline. It's enough time to say, look, most people are busy the week they're in. And it gives them, time to know, okay, this isn't something you want to talk right now.
Yeah.
it does give me some time to breathe. So you're not trying to press me real hard. So, okay, that seems reasonable.
Or even worse, like they email the very next day, just follow up to hear back from me, Jason. Dude, this literally been 14 hours.
Yeah. Well, that's the AI thing. That's what happens with these lead gen. Like they have it systematically already programmed out that, okay, on the first day they send this, and the next day there's this, and there's like a cadence of 7 or 10 or 18 emails that are set at different times. And it's like, I haven't even responded to the first one.
Yeah.
And you're already sending me something else. And it's like, yeah, I think it's part of it's cool. And if I was in that market where like the transactional marketing type thing would work, I think it would be great.
Yeah.
But I've told all of the lead gen places that if you're not organically, reaching out and understanding of doing the research and understanding about the client, I don't want you blindly sending out emails.
Yeah. All right. So next, I have to go to the bathroom.
Okay.
But I'm gonna ask you a question. You should be able to answer the question from the bathroom.
Okay.
So next one, I saw on LinkedIn where you went to Salt Lake City a couple weeks ago and visited Maximiliano something.
Yeah.
I apologize to you, whoever you are, for fucking your name up. I apologize. And it seemed like it was a great meeting, got a lot done. Can you talk about all that right there?
Sure. So Max, we have a pretty good relationship with a company called Code AIT out of Argentina, and Maximiliano, I think it's Eberwitz, is, and I may have butchered the last name as well, but Max for short. We have been working together on we had an OpenAI grant that we applied for. We didn't get it, but we kind of made it through a round or two of selection process. And then we've worked on currently working on a client project together. And then we have another different OpenAI grant that we're working with another friend of ours on a project. And, we've done everything through virtual meetings. And we haven't met each other face to face. And so he said, hey, I'm going to be coming to the US and I will, be in Salt Lake City, giving a presentation, which was a really cool product that he has developed with another partner of his. They were at the Roots Tech event in Salt Lake City, presenting a product. And so, yeah, I took the opportunity to fly over there and meet him and be able to see somebody you've talked through virtual for over a year face to face was kind of cool. So,
I'm back.
That's Max. So, he's with Code AIT, okay, which is another technical consulting company that they're really focused more on technical staffing.
Have you been to Argentina?
I have not.
It seems like you need to make a road trip to Argentina.
I am. That's going to be the next phase, is to go down there. My wife's from Ecuador, so I've been to South America, but not to Argentina. So I plan on going to Argentina and checking it out. We plan on working closely together. I like their team. They are actually the only technical staffing company that I've worked with that when they've gotten on a job, they actually believe in completing it early and doing over deliver and not, it's that whole over promise and under deliver. Yeah. Well, they're under promising and over delivering on everything they touch, and they're very high quality. And so I love their approach, the way they think, the way their developers work, their solutions. Max and Matthias is the CEO, Max is the CTO of Code AIT, and they run a really good team. They've been in business 7+ years. Yeah. So they're further along than we are. We've been in business a couple years, and we're kind of slowly growing methodically. And so we've kind of learned from them and teamed up with them. So yeah, Max was here, and he's really big into AI.
Okay.
A lot of AI stuff.
So how would you deal with this, right? I hope you haven't done this yet. Like suppose like Ukraine was really big on software developers. Of parts of the war's going on now. I could be wrong. I think Ecuador has a lot of like stuff going on now with it right now. Haiti, of course, I don't think Haiti is like software development place to go, but lots of stuff going on there. How do you deal with like when you have software developers in a country, they have like a lot of political, other stuff going on? Is it like,
That's a challenge. I mean,
is like, I don't care what's going on. Finish the fucking code, dude. Or like,
well, I mean, if your project's big enough, if your client's big enough, it would be smart to um, make sure you're taking that into account when you're pulling your team together, right? You're right. There's brilliant developers from every part of the world. I'm not going to say that these developers over here are terrible and these are over good. You're going to find good developers everywhere. You're going to find terrible developers everywhere. And so you do have to take into account, we can't be naive when you outsource that everything is, the way it is here in the United States. There's other environments you deal with developing countries and why they appreciate the revenue and they appreciate the work and they do a good job. There's some infrastructure issues. Like, do they have internet go out all the time? Is there, how stable, how safe is it? Are they dealing with, are they going to deal with getting robbed or broken into, or, is there civil unrest? Is there war? Obviously our approach is we want to take care of our clients and our people. And obviously that comes first. If there's a tragedy happening, take care of the tragedy, get the heck out of there, be safe. We'll figure something else out. But that's something that I consult with clients in the US that maybe haven't outsourced before or that are considering it. I mean, I think every company in the US should consider it as a serious option because they've just spent whatever money they spent during COVID to make their infrastructure so they can have everybody work remotely. So they can't say they don't have the technology anymore. They invested in it. So now get a return on your investment. Now you've made it so that people can remote in. There are safe environments through Azure, AWS, other cloud environments that you can have people remote into those environments. Everything's secure there and everything's safe. It can be HIPAA compliant, all this other stuff. It's worth looking into.
for the clouds like AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, I think Rackspace and some other are they basically all the same like compliance stuff, or is one or two of them actually really better than the other one?
They all should have a certain level of security and compliance, and that's what makes them allowed to be in business. We will typically only use AWS and Azure. Those two are the big main two. And we like it because they have the certificates, they have the documentation that we can provide our clients that says, yes, this environment's safe and this has been deployed. They also have, so for our team, when we set up the environment, if we need technical help to set it up in a certain way, we have a client that has certain parameters, we can pull them in and they can help us set it up the right way. And so that's what I like. When you get into smaller cloud environments, they may not have all the support, or they may be pretty a la carte, like you do this and then you need to be in charge of everything else. And they may not have a lot of extra resources. So, but AWS and Azure, when you get into the bigger cloud environments, there's also a cost factor that you have to be aware of.
How does this work, right? Like, suppose you have a project you're working on, and let's suppose you have 10 developers, right? And like, let's suppose 10 developers over a 1 month period, they all leave. They all got better paying jobs or whatever reason they left, right? And then you replace them with 10 new developers. How does that transition work, right? Do the new developers just look at the code and say, I got it? Or is it like a training process? Like, how does the transition work from like one group of developers to another one?
Well, I can tell you that if a developer leaves in the middle of a project when they weren't slated to leave in the middle of a project, it sucks. It's the worst scenario. Mm-hmm. So what do you do? Well, obviously, if they left, it probably wasn't on good terms, because if it's on good terms, then they're going to stick out their contract. Yeah. So if they don't, if they get fired or they just decide to do something else and flake out, which happens, what happens? Well, you need to quickly have someone with similar skill or abilities to come in. There is a little bit of them being able to wrap their head around where they're at in the project. But that's a lot of that falls on the project manager of the team of saying, okay, we're going to help get this person up to speed. You have all 10 leave, something.
I mean, they 10 left within a month. Some like got fired, some got better jobs, different
Yeah.
reasons.
If you're on it with staff, we typically, for every technical staff that we provide that gets signed on, we typically try to have 4 or 5 options
So
for that one. So they picked,
like a
picked
talent bench,
one. So
like a talent bench,
it's
so
a
to speak.
pool. Yeah. And so they'll be like, okay, 3 others were qualified for this. They selected this one. Okay, this one didn't work out after 6 months. We'll first go back to those 3 that were selected. Hey, are you available to go in and step into this role now that it's here? And I think most developers, it's just the nature of it is when they come into a project, if it's already going, no matter what role unless they're there from the beginning, there is some wrapping their head around the code where the project's at. And that is your lead tech, your senior developers and your project manager that's responsible to kind of bring in that new talent and get them up to speed. And then just see how they're, it's based on what they're assigned, making sure their skill levels there, sure they're ramping up with productivity and just do it as quickly as you can to replace the ones that are out. I would say if in a month or even 2 months you have, or at any time you have 10 developers that are leaving or there's attrition where they're not completing the contract, that is there's something toxic going on there, whether it's through the consulting company or the project itself, the leadership of the project, the client, the environment they're creating is and so some of it we do regular weekly touch bases with not only the developers that we place but also the client and say, is this something that is working, and if there's a problem, how do we solve the problem?
Yeah.
So we try not to let it just get to the point where the developer wants to leave when we're blindsided, right?
Yeah.
That's just, now maybe some staffing companies do that, but we're more hands-on.
Yeah.
Like we would like to see where there's an issue and solve that issue before it gets to be a problem where they're walking.
Okay. And you said with your company, the product manager runs everything, right?
That's how we do it on our teams.
Okay.
I mean, as far as our personnel, but it's a collaborative. It depends on how involved the product owner, the client is. If the client's running the project, well, then they're running the project.
Okay.
But
so let's say the product manager run a project, right? Let's say the product manager, I'm making this all up, right? Product manager is Indiana. 3 developers are Ecuador, 2 in Argentina, 1 in Ukraine, 1 in the Philippines, 1 in India. What kind of training does product manager to make sure like he's collaborative, like respect for all these different cultures, like picking the right time zone, all that kind of stuff?
So we've had something similar. We've had a project where we've had somebody from project manager was in Ecuador. The client was here in the Seattle area. We had our UX UI was in Pakistan. We had Honduras, and Philippines. We had 2 in the Philippines. So you're talking very spread out time zones. So we had to all agree, the team agreed on what would be a good starting point. So you have some of the team that is at the beginning of the day is when the daily stand-up is, that they're meeting with the project manager, and the ones in LATAM, it was like the end of their day. So you decide to pick the meeting when everyone can get together at the same time. It's very challenging, and most seasoned project managers and guys that run dev teams in larger organizations probably would have, okay, we have our team in that time zone, and we have a team that's in this time zone, and we have somebody leading that team that's basically 24/7.
Yeah.
Right. When this team's sleeping, that team's working, and then there's the project manager.
Which in theory should speed up everything, right?
It should. They just have to have really good communication. They have to make sure they're doing really good notes and documenting and making sure that, you know, we've had them working on the same project. So that's been a little bit of a challenge, because we need their documentation. You know, they can't leave their shift until they told everybody what they're doing and make it clear. When you have a whole team that's in one area, then it's different because they communicate and they're assigned a certain part of it and they just do that part of it. And then you have this team doing this part of it. And you would have probably two project managers, one project manager that their time would be half of one time zone and half of the other time zone so that they're being available to do both. That's one of the things I love about this career path, or this, being in technical consulting. Is really depends on where you are in the world. It's so creative and flexible in how you put things together. Just what works for the client. That may not work for the client. The client may be like, look, no, we require, the client could say, look, we don't mind outsourcing, but they need to be all in the United States.
Yeah.
No problem. We can get team from the Midwest and someone from Florida, someone from New York, someone from Indiana, someone from California. We can put the team together and do that.
So how did you get into being a tech consultant? How did that career path come about for you?
So it was interesting. So a buddy of mine, who used to be a solution architect or person for Capgemini, and I think he's worked at Accenture, and he's going to go to Deloitte, and now he's more in the cybersecurity space. I've always loved technology. I've always loved video games. I've always loved what's the latest thing out. Like when Pong first came out, I was playing it. When Atari first came out, when, Nintendo first came, so the new thing, whatever the new thing is, I'm always, I always like that and always like to be there. What's the new? Always what's the new? I love sci-fi. I love thinking, what can we do? What's technology going to take us to? And I've been in the infrastructure side, meaning fiber and telecommunications, and voice and data network side of things. And I've always said, I want to be on the cutting edge. What's the very front thing that's happening? And if I had a choice to do as a career, that's where I would want to spend a lot of time. And when COVID happened, I switched from working for Comcast Business. I was there for almost 10 years on the enterprise business side. My wife's from Ecuador, and the company I went to let me work from Ecuador. And for me, that was a paradigm shift, because I'm like in Ecuador, it's hot. I'm still doing my work, still doing my meetings. I had fiber connection there better than I have here in DuPont. I was like 1 gig down, 1 gig up. It was amazing. And I'm living in Ecuador, where my dollar goes way further than it does here in Seattle area. I'm like, this is perfect. If I could work anywhere in the world and make the money that I make and still do my job and be successful, that's what I want to do. How do I do that? And I had several conversations with my friend. He may be watching, Jacob. And he was like, hey, you've wanted to get on this software side, this side of technology instead of the infrastructure side. You're down in Ecuador. There's lots of clients looking for LATAM talent. Why don't you spin something up and make connections? And I'm, I don't know, military training or me just being bullheaded, but I'm always like jumping the deep end and figure it out. So I'm like, that's a good idea. Okay, yeah, let's do that. So I connected with some people and decided the company together. We put a C corp here. We put a C corp down there. We raised some money and kind of got started. But it was learning. We were learning the whole time. I've had a blast these last 2.5 years of putting this together. And that's how it came about. And now I've met some really great people here in the Seattle, the Washington Technology Innovation Association. We became members of that and go to some of those events and connect with uh, people in the blockchain, Web3 community, kind of really seeing what's the next things that we're going to be doing. AI pins coming out, and I'm buying them. The first ones that get it, so I can't wait until April when it comes in. And I want to play with that. So I'm everything like new, and in the way that it can help us live a fuller life. What I mean by that is that we're more effective, efficient, and get more done. That we can get more work done in a shorter period of time that allows us to enjoy everything else in life more. Like if I could get 8 hours of work done in 4, and I could do that, and I could live somewhere where the beach is right over there, and I could be just as effective as somebody who works 8 hours coming into the office every day, dealing with commute, and I can do a better job in a shorter period of time, getting more done, having a better life, be able to experience more of the world. To me, that's the ultimate dream.
I mean, that's good in theory. The problem is you have these old school bosses who are like, "Oh, you only work 4 hours. I'm only going to pay you for 4 hours of time, right?"
Well, there's some coaching involved. You definitely have to coach up. You definitely have to say, quantify what is the requirement. And so I've always been in an individual contributor, sales, consulting, where I have like a quota. And so, okay, you can do your work, meet your quota,
Yeah.
and then who cares what you do with the rest of your time, because
Yeah.
you've met what we've asked you
Yeah.
to do. And now with technology, all the other stuff you can do, like I work remotely. I'm in DuPont in my home office 90% of the time.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, we come into the office at meeting, whatever. Every once in a while, I have somebody local, a client that would want to meet face to face. So I'll go do that, of course. But a majority of the time, I'm working from DuPont.
Yeah.
And in my mind, if I'm in my home doing my work, I would rather be in Ecuador doing the same thing, and it doesn't matter. It is the exact same thing because I'm not in the office, and
That's funny.
it's the same.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It's just distance, but it's still a screen in front. And so, yes, there's old school thinking. There's old school. There's some legal and insurance and other things that have to be considered, but I would be willing to sign a waiver. No problem.
Have you thought about this? I'm sure you have. Our generation went from Pong to AI taking over the world in like what 50 less years, What's it thought is something like exponential tech curve where like everything doubles every 12 or 18 months, whatever.
Yeah. Matter of fact, I was talking with my parents because I had sent them, I had gotten an update from the humane people about my AI pin and what's coming. So they sent out this email with a link to the latest video and YouTube. And I sent it to my parents. And I remember having a conversation with my grandmother, my dad's mom, who lived in 99. She was born in like 1912. And I had a conversation with her later in her life of, she was like, man, how much technology's changed in her lifetime. And then I'm thinking, how much technology's changed in my lifetime.
Yeah.
And it's exponentially
Yeah.
getting there to where, yeah, it blows my mind.
I mean, it's exciting and scary at the same time, right?
Super scary. I was talking with somebody when we talk about that and exponential. Two of the grants that OpenAI has put out, one was on governance. And I don't know if you remember, maybe a few years ago, OpenAI and the CEO of OpenAI was going around all the governments of saying, hey, we need your involvement. We need you to pass laws. We need you to govern this. It's not our job to govern this. We're creating it, but you guys need to put some parameters around this. And which I think is very responsible, very responsible. And they were they were putting money into grants and saying, we're going to give like 10 grants. Of, we need people to start developing ways and ideas of how we can govern this and put governance in and help AI to be ethical and be used in the right way. That's a benefit to humanity, not something that's harmful. This next set of grants was on like super AI, meaning when AI grows beyond our ability to understand how it came to the decision that it came to. Like, it can permeate so many calculations so fast and so many different factors that there's a way now for us to figure out, okay, they looked at all of this and this is how AI got to this decision. But when it gets so complex that we can't even figure that out,
Yeah.
how are we going? It's going to be beyond us. And then in those conversations, the question came up, well, then what parameters are put in place when it becomes self-aware?
Yeah, I know, right?
Because at some point there will be a spark and it will have so much information and signals that it will become self-aware. And now it's like, okay, that's like raising a child.
Yeah.
Or that's like a really smart child. But it's like, okay, what values and what things have you built in to it to guide it to something that's going to be ethical and isn't going to be like, you're inferior, zap, wipe out humanity.
I know, right? I mean,
That's the question.
Or something even more simple, like suppose you have an AI robot that as a cook cooks your meals every day. You say, hey, let's say you call her Mary. Hey, Mary Jane, I want some pork chops and a potato salad and corn. No, Jason, your blood cholesterol is XX. This is you'll be eating salads for the next 20 days and you'll fucking like it. You better override. There's no override when it comes to your health, Jason. What the fuck?
This is true. This could be, a thing. And I think when it's programmed, you can program that in.
Mm-hmm.
There will be a point that it will have the ability to override the programming based on other stuff.
Yeah.
And what do we do then? And I never thought that we would be asking those questions or even have to deal with that in my lifetime. But over the last 5 years, I've changed on that.
Yeah.
And I think in my lifetime, in our lifetime, that will be a real question that's going to have to be answered and dealt with. And I do think, for some people, oh yeah, super scary. But I am encouraged because the powers that be that are creating this AI are also behind the scenes. That's not getting as much publicity as I think it should, are creating grants and research and how do we ethically build in parameters? How are we doing some of this stuff? And it's not getting the publicity, but they're doing it. And it is out there and they are asking the questions and they are putting things in place that will help. And I think, we have great people, great champions of technology. I would say the Washington Technology Innovation Association is very active. I give a shout out to Ari Yu, who's on the Global Blockchain Council, working with state lawmakers to, enact laws that help move this technology forward in a safe and ethical way. There's lots of people here in the local Seattle tech community that are very, very involved.
I know if people talk about AI ethics, I might be wrong, but AI itself does not have good or bad ethics, right? It's the ethics that's coded in them by the coding people, right? It's like, how do we make sure the people making the AI algorithms, you want to call it, or like ethically based, or even I know a lot of HR AI recruiting tools have like this bias, facial bias, voice recognition bias. Like, I don't know how you overcome that, right? Like,
we are talking about it. One of our friends and Max and I are working with her. Her name's Leah, who does With Respect. So she approaches DEI with, I think, is a very revolutionary. DEI education and trainings in corporations is very controversial. And we're seeing some lawmakers and some people go away from it just based on how it was implemented, just wasn't very effective and it wasn't getting the results that was desired. Leah's got a great book, and she does this with her clients, and she approaches it from mutual respect and teaching mutual respect. And so we're working with her and Max actually on an OpenAI grant proposal. We hope we get some funding to help build in a, the ability to educate companies and people on how to have mutual respect. And if we could integrate that knowledge and that understanding into AI development, so that as AI gets self-aware, it's mutually respectful of whatever your religion is, whatever your culture is, whatever that if you have mutual respect, it cancels out the negative bias that would be there, because it overrides that, saying, okay, if we have mutual respect, you do have to listen to that person and understand things from their point of view and do it in a very respectful way. So,
someone put this video real fast. But while I'm doing this,
yeah.
So now, do you ever listen to the Lex Fridman podcast?
I do not.
So he's like this data scientist from Ukraine. So he had Sam Altman on the other day, right? And one of the questions he asked Sam was like, when is ChatGPT 5 coming up? He said, sooner than later. So you're saying 2024. No, I'm not saying that sooner than later, right? And he's like, can you tell me anything about what's coming with ChatGPT 5? Well, only thing I can say is like, it's a lot of people thought ChatGPT 3 was revolutionary. ChatGPT 4 like did extraordinary things. In my mind, it didn't really do anything. But in my mind, ChatGPT 5 is a game changer. So from saying that, another thing, like if anyone I would trust like doing this is Sam Altman, right? I'm a big fan of his versus some other guy, right? What do you think is going to come with ChatGPT 5? Like what are your expectations? What do you want from it? Like,
that's a good question. I think as ChatGPT, I would like to see it get more into voice control, get more into being a tool that's developed into like an AI assistant, a digital assistant that will allow us to, like the AI pen is it's a device that is getting us in the habit of having like a digital self, a digital assistant that we can talk to and say, okay, do this for me, do that for me. And while I'm doing these other things. And I would like to see ChatGPT go more into that. I know having it was cheaper to develop on. It is fairly cheap now, but you still pay for all the data you use, even if it's just testing and even if it's just research. So it'd be nice if there's like a test environment that you could test theories and test things before you actually produced it and then pay for the production versus, it would be nice if the training or the development environments were cheaper to develop on. Those are things I'd like to see.
all right, so I'm gonna play this video real fast.
Okay.
Hopefully it comes up.
While you're doing that, I'm gonna take a selfie.
Let me backtrack real fast. This is insane right here. Of course, it might just be I making a fake video, but who knows?
Great. Can you explain why you did while you pick up this class? screen right now, where do you think the business in front of you go next?
Like this is now, what's going to be like 2 years from now?
Well, sure, robotics and machines are going to be blowing up.
I look at this, I look at this, I think we will all be unemployed.
Uh, I, I don't necessarily.
I agree. That's a good one.
I think. I think it depends on how we.
But before you finish that, I don't think 9% of Americans realize that that's going on right now. I don't think most Americans don't realize how advanced we are in all this AI robotic stuff.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Well, I was at, gosh, was it 2 years ago? At just a GeekWire, their GeekWire summit that they had here in Seattle, and they had a company that was already in Texas. There is automated semi trucks
Yeah, yeah.
going that there's not a live driver driving.
And so that means
And
250,000 truckers out of job instantly.
yeah, now they have a driver that has the license that sits in there, but then they are doing the telemetry and they're checking other stuff. So they're riding and not actually driving, and all the sensors have improved enough to allow that. And I guess the reason they started in Texas is because the roads are flat.
Yeah.
The conditions are
Less
stable
traffic,
enough that, they can do that. But if you, I guess, drive around Texas, there's going to be a lot of driverless semi trucks rolling around. And I think where we're going to see things really take off is when they're creating robots that can dig ditches, that can build skyscrapers,
So
that can do all of that with just the program.
I saw one video where this robot was cleaning bathrooms.
Yeah, I've seen the bathroom one, but I'm saying when you can have a robot that works 24/7, welding, putting steel girders together, building high rises, doing all of that, I think that's where we're going to have some labor issues, because we have, the working class in a lot of these labor jobs. What my hope is that the companies that look to deploy this type of new technology are upskilling their workers to be used in a way that they just don't lose their job.
Because there's a dignity in your work, right?
Yeah, I mean that I think there's going to be a place. I just hope that everybody wakes up and is willing to change, willing to upskill themselves, willing to learn new skills to stay relevant, to work alongside an automated person that's going to be doing all this work. And otherwise, it's going to be a problem.
Is there a job that AI cannot do, you think? Or can AI potentially do every job there is?
No, there's lots of jobs that AI can't do.
Like what?
Like anything that takes anything right now that takes physical response from a human being, like that we have reasonings and values and empathies that we can deploy in situations.
But
that
can you train AI to do that also?
It's not there yet. The technology
No,
there. Now, eventually, sure. Eventually, you could have a robot AI that has our personality, that has our empathy, and displays that. But we're quite a ways away from that. I think there's a lot of, I think what the technical gurus that are watching this would say in theory, yes, we have the ability now to do that. Is it practical? Is it really, we're going to deploy these by the masses? No, it's not practical yet. We're getting there. It's on that track, but I think there's still a lot that makes humans different. And I think the creative, the things that do make us different from AI and different from robots is what we need to lean into, the soft skills. That is where I think we are going to spend more of our time, is developing our soft skills, and that AI and robots won't have. And it's going to take decades for the soft skills to get really dialed in. I think they can get everything else. And that's why we need people that are willing to upskill and build their soft skills to interact in a way that still makes us viable.
Do you think this ever happens? Like, we're posing sometime in the future, you're on a date with someone, you have a good date going good, and you ask, I have to ask, prove to me you're really a human. Like, how do I know you're not a robot? Maybe tech is so advanced, like all this stuff's so advanced, and robots become technically humans, right? Like, think that time's gonna come when a guy or girl's like, hey, I really like you, but I have to, like, prove to me you're not a robot. Like, give me a birth certificate, like, do something right.
Did you see the movie The Creator?
No.
So it's a Disney movie, The Creator, that was out this last year. That you need to watch it.
Okay.
It's exactly that.
That thing. Okay.
It's human beings with robots, and our robots an actual entity that is equal to human, and there's a faction of humans that don't like that, and that's similar.
Okay.
I think it comes down to, sure, people can be deceptive, things can be deceptive, but are you going to ask the right questions? Are you going to pay attention?
Yeah.
Whether it matters or not, sometimes you ask, are you a man or a woman?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, anymore, sometimes you don't know.
No, I know, right?
And it's just, what's your preference? What's your, are you asking the right questions? And, you have these movies like Her, and I forget the name of the other one, where, is it Joaquin? What's his name?
Joaquin Phoenix?
Something like it. Yeah. That falls in love with the AI.
Okay.
Like Alexa.
Yeah. I know you're talking about, yeah.
That movie.
Yeah.
So does it really matter if it's do you just want companionship?
Yeah.
Do you want to have just a personality that talks back to you, or what is it that is important to you?
I think in Japan, more men in Japan, hang out with the sex robots than real females now.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know about that, but
yeah.
Those are the things that teach their own. I think, that they're, some people believe that that's wrong. Some people believe it's right. I think it's above my pay grade.
Interesting time for sure.
Yeah.
So can you talk more about, can you talk more about blockchain and Web3?
I can't. And the reason I say that is because I'm learning. I'm an interested.
Well, I'm sure you know more than 95% of the people out there.
I don't know. I'm learning. It's a concept that's I still haven't wrapped my head around it, because Web3 hasn't actually been.
It wasn't the big thing
developed yet. Like it's there are pieces of it. My understanding that Web3 is kind of like an environment, a new environment. So Web2 is our internet and how we interact with things now. Web3 is going to be the next evolution of that, and we're not there yet. I think it's going to be a combination of blockchain, AI, virtual reality. You start seeing these different types of glasses that allow 3D imagery, or allow you to see things here and touch things in the air and do computing and do things, like, instead of at a computer, you have a pair of glasses that you can do some of these things, or you can go to work, and let's say you're in, like, I think it's bigger in the energy industry, but you're going on an oil rig, or you're going onto an energy whatever, and you're inspecting certain things. And I know that there's some of these glasses that they can bring up different schematics and allow them to do some of the work, and it's all virtual, kind of a hybrid virtual real, kind of overlay. And so my understanding, Web3 is like a combination of all of that. That's just a new way in how we're dealing with technology and interacting with the internet, and how we do things. We're not there yet. I think the AI pen, AI, blockchain, smart contracts, all of that is part of it, but we're still really premature. And
What is this AI pen you're talking about?
so might be able to send it to you. So it's a pen that it does a lot of cool stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it is going to be your virtual, it's going to be your like digital assistant. You can play music, you can talk to it, it can translate for you.
Is it a certain company makes this, or?
Yeah, the company is Humane.
Okay.
So I want to send this to you, and you can decide if you want to show a little bit of it.
You gonna email it to me?
I want to email it to you, but I have to find it. Just I have like a million. No. Are you really?
Yeah, what's bourbon you want to try next?
So try actually just going to hu.ma. .ma.ne.
.ma.ne.
Yep. Humane. And NE. NE. N is a Nancy, E is a last. hu.ma.ne. Yep. And that's the AI pen. And they do have a video.
Is this a pretty new company, or?
Very brand new.
And so the product is the AI pen.
Product is the AI pen. It's created by two, I think, former executives of Apple. It's Imnan and Bethany. They're a husband and wife.
And what's the purpose of having this? Just like a personal assistant in your chest or something, or?
Yeah, it's taken the personal assistant to the next level.
So what's the difference between this and us just using ChatGPT in your phone?
Well, this is all voice. It does take video. It does take photos. It does. Yes. Sunday, March 17th. This is the video.
First is an update on shipping. The second is an overview of AI Pen. And for the third, Imran's going to tell you a little bit about where we're going next. We recently shared that our final software image was sent to the factory, and that AI Pen will begin shipping from the factory at the end of March. Priority orders will start.
How does no one know about this? At least I didn't know about this. Is this for like tech head, so to speak?
I know about it.
But you're a tech head, though. I can guarantee you the average of Joe Blow in America don't know this shit. The guy working 9 to 5 at the, Goodyear tire factory, going home after work and drinking 2 or 3 beers in the dive bar.
About this.
So do you think the AI stuff, do you think it's going to make the divide between haves and have-nots even that big,
I think that is the biggest, that's the biggest concern, is that my prediction, not that I have any authority of anything, but my prediction, my concern is this: you have developing countries that are probably 10 to 30 years behind developed countries and their use of technology. And now AI with the developed countries have exponentially developing tech. And I don't think we are too far away from the sci-fi movies where you have the elite tech people living in the sky and everyone else scrounging on the ground for scraps. Because if there aren't efforts to make technology available for all, if there aren't efforts to develop and help developing countries catch up and include as many people as possible in this tech evolution that's happening now, the AI evolution, if it's not looked at from like a holistic approach, including everybody, yeah, you're going to have the have and have nots.
So this is going to be a horrible example, especially what's going on in Haiti right now, but United States and Haiti, right? Like Haiti, I mean, what I remember since the 90s, there were like coups, hurricanes, earthquakes, like the political leaders, gangs. It's never been a good country, so to speak, right? Even though the Dominican Republic is right on the same island, it's not like the thriving, right? But like the United States can, tech, and like Haiti is like, like it's a shithole, right? Or like country like North Korea, or like, it's
Well,
like, how do you stop that?
Yeah, well, there's ownership of, I think it's on the countries themselves to make sure they're creating an environment that allows them to move forward. I mean, if they're gonna, unfortunately, in Latin America, corruption is a normal thing.
It's
That's in
everywhere.
most, I mean, corruption is everywhere. We're not saying we're above anything here in the US, but as far as governments are concerned, you have corruption on such a crazy level that's just part of normal way things are doing.
Yeah.
That the mindset, there's a reason developing
it's-
countries are developing for a
It's
reason,
like an additional tax.
because they have chosen to not get rid of certain behaviors that allow corruption and crime and things that work against societal inclusion.
Yeah.
I mean, for crying out loud, we're not even in Venezuela. Our whole embassy left. Like, we're like, peace out. We're not dealing with you guys at all. And so how is Venezuela going to even sit at the table with anyone else?
Yeah.
Well, until that government realizes they're not the only thing on the planet, and they really need to be involved with everyone else to see that this technology is advancing so fast that at some point they aren't even going to be able to integrate, because it's going to be so far advanced that the bridge,
I know.
That's my concern, that the bridge between where developing countries are now, their infrastructure and a lot of things that we take for granted that we have that allows us to develop, that gap is going to widen, widen. And at some point, it's going to be past the point of like, there's no way. This is moving forward so fast that this can't even catch up.
They have no chance.
I hope, and one of the reasons we decided to start looking into LATAM for developers is to try to help the situation in LATAM and try to improve, tech fields in LATAM and getting more people interested in. I mean, you have India, who has an entire culture centered around everybody learning everything about technology, and more engineers than anybody. And they're turning out more engineers than anybody. And you have other countries that maybe they have one college that specializes in technology.
Yeah.
So it's just like, come on, guys, catch up. And so that's our goal. I mean, and if you want to get really crazy with, get deeper into the reasons why we started Quantify 360 Solutions is, we are I am extremely concerned about the issue at our southern border. And from the aspect of this, I'm not taking the position that they shouldn't be here. I'm not taking the position to kick them all out and never let them come to the U.S. What my concern is the reason why they're leaving their home, their country. And what can we do to fix that?
Yeah.
Because you don't see too many Americans trying to go to a different country to live. You don't
Unless it's Ecuador.
you don't see you see go to visit, right? But countries that are developed, they like their country and they stay in their country because they can thrive. They can have a standard of living. They can have a standard of education. They can have hope. And you don't see that in developing countries. And that's what I think that's the big awareness piece that we're trying to address is that, if we spent more, I believe, if corporations here in the US spent more time and money fostering relationships with Latin American resources, it would help put more money, more resources, more education, more things going on. And so it would lessen the issue at our southern border. And more people that are in Mexico and Latin American countries that are trying to flee, that they would actually have prosperity where they're at. And so they wouldn't necessarily want to flee because they'd be able to support their family where they're at. Like how many, I know that there are families that send their oldest son or their husband or their father to the border to try to get in the US to make some money to send money back because they can't live very well. That their standard of living, they're struggling. That's what I want to do is to say, look, how can we help, provide jobs there? How can we provide some economic stability there? And I think then the only people you'll see at the southern border are criminals that are trying to flee justice. And then we deal with criminals well. We deal with criminals all day long. I'm not concerned about that. But
this is my thing. The day when people don't want to come here, that's the thing that's when you need to be worried.
True. Like we're doing something right. There are other countries that people go to in Europe.
Yeah.
They're doing
even though everyone
right.
says we're a fucked up country, this and that, internally, hundreds of thousands of people still want to come here for the country. So we're doing something right.
Yeah. For those people that that live in the US, that don't like the US, I just encourage them to go live wherever else they want to live and just see what it's like. Now,
it's very different.
I really liked living in Ecuador for 3 months. I loved it. But to live there are things I had to consider that I don't even have to consider here.
Yeah.
Like, sure, we have bad areas. We have areas of crime that if you stumble into at the wrong hour of the night, maybe something bad is going to happen to you. There are areas in Ecuador where you just don't even slow down at the red light at that time of night because they'll stop you and bad things will happen. Like you just keep on going.
Yeah.
And I'm like, really? Like, yeah, no, we don't stop here. Like, you got to be kidding me. Like, we are very fortunate. And I think that is wonderful about technology, that if everyone used technology and everyone can actually work from different parts of the world and see what other people have to live, it's going to open your eyes to a lot of issues that are going on that we can help. And we have a lot of waste. We in the US have a lot of waste. And if
all kinds of waste.
If we as Quantify 360 Solutions can help a company be more efficient, more effective, and less waste, and more productive, generate more revenue, that means there's more resources for them to do something else and grow and do good. That's what we're passionate about. And if we can get corporations and companies to be more efficient and have extra money, maybe they'll donate to good causes around the world, and maybe they'll have money to do good and partner with other resources in places that need it, that helps ultimately bridge the gap between the haves and the haves not. And that's what we're about at Q360. And we started with focusing just on Latin America, but really we've had developers work with us on different projects that we're partnered with, that we're contracted with, from all over the world.
So I'll go back to this divide again, but let's bring the United States, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's suppose like there's someone in Seattle, right? Let's suppose they're economically not well off, right? They're kind of poor, maybe they're on welfare, but they're still in Seattle, right? They still have access. Maybe they don't take advantage of access, they have access like all this stuff here. Like there's always stuff going on, right? Take that person, we'll say he's a 10th grader, and then let's take a 10th grader and like let's call them Farmville, Iowa, right? It was like they live in a town of 25 people, and that's my farms. Those no tech at all. But this person's like, man, I want to get involved with tech. I can't get it right. Like, how do we fix that, or is it just like it's just is what it is, so to speak?
Well, I do think there's a lot of tech going on in agriculture. So I think there's some pretty cool things happening in the farm community and implementing technology and how they're doing their crops and doing things. But if I think we just have to keep being advocates of, I don't think we should be afraid of technology. I think we should see technology as a tool. And, I believe I grew up in Indiana and we had Commodore 64s and doing basic programming to make basic things. Back when I was, so if that was happening in Indiana, I'm pretty sure that whatever schools in Iowa or the Midwest that may be a farming community still probably has computers in schools, and they have access to the internet and they have access to the technology that's around. I think it's bringing awareness to the legislatures. I think it's bringing awareness to the states that this is a real thing and we need to pay attention to it. And you want to be proactive than reactive, because if you're reactive, you're going to have limited options. And that's what I'm just trying to tell people. If, kids going into college, kids going into high school, elementary school, my kids and my grandkids, I'm like, learn AI, learn ChatGPT, mess with it, download it on your phone, your computer, interact with it, get it to where you understand how it works, and use it as much as possible as a tool, so that you're not like, what is this?
So, what grade should we be teaching kids to code? Because it seems now they don't start like maybe junior high or 9th or 10th grade.
I think it should be beginning. I think it should be like English and coding.
Yeah.
I think it should
Just
be
another language should be like, do you want to learn Spanish, French, or coding?
Yeah. Now,
you need to learn coding.
I've met a really great lady, actually two, that are in Florida, and she was actually my professor at Eastern Washington University. I started my MBA. I'm still in process, but in my fall semester, fall quarter, she was teaching one of the marketing class, and so we connected, and I saw that she had her own consulting, and then she did AI talks, and so people invite her around to do different presentations on AI, and so we connected, and so we're kind of working together as she does her presentations and speaking engagements about AI, and there's opportunity. Then she reaches out to me and my team, and we'll talk to clients, potential clients, about solving whatever problem they're trying to do. But she's integrated into the Florida school system, and the Florida school system came out with a mandate. She was telling me that K through 12, educators are being encouraged, are being told to create AI education for K through 12, like just to get kids aware of what it is, how to interact with it, how to use it in a constructive way, and what it's about. And that's just with AI. Florida's doing that. I'm sure they're not the only state in the union that's doing this, but
So you're saying Florida man is going to have AI capabilities now?
Florida, they're making it part of their school system. So if you're in kindergarten through, you're going to be learning about what ChatGPT is. And I thought that's pretty cool. I don't know if other places are going to do it, but I think you need to start right away, because it's not a fad.
Oh no,
it's not a flash in the pan.
No,
it's not something, it's going to go away, it's not going to catch on. No, it's here to stay. It's going to change and revolutionize how we interact with everybody and everything. And we saw the AI pen. We saw there are going to be devices. There's going to be headsets. There's going to be things. The future could look something like Ready Player One, combined with, you know, something else where people are walking down the street with these headsets and in this virtual world, but
Yeah.
actually it could get crazy before we, you know, in the future.
Yeah.
It's the skies are the limit. I think it's important to be responsible, engage, and be proactive in upskilling and,
Yeah.
and embracing it, because the more voices, the better outcome we're going to have.
Yeah.
The more people that stick their head in the sand and don't want to participate, then what's going to happen is they're going to wake up one day and aren't even going to be relevant.
Nope.
And that is going to be a sad day. And we're trying to do everything we can to prepare people. We see that. We're everybody on my team is thinking that way. Everyone we consult with from a partner standpoint thinks that way. You know, Max and his team down in Argentina thinks that way. And it's, you know, I think clients here in the US that are looking to advance their digital transformation, advance their company from a technical standpoint, need to talk to technical consulting companies that are similar philosophy that we have, that are thinking about what's the next thing and where are we now and how do we get there, because the solutions are going to be relevant.
So is it safe for me to presume that since you're getting the AI pin, you're going to do the neural link in your brain also?
You know, I don't know about the neural link in the brain. I don't know. There's, you know, it's where do you draw the line?
Yeah.
My son, who's, you know, 32, and he's doing great things in the cannabis industry. He said something really profound to me a few weeks ago, and he said, you know, because we're talking about the line, and we're talking about, you know, we actually go to church, and you know, there was this whole the chip and the whole, you know, all of this thing, and he goes, you know, you may be fine with the AI pin, but what if a law changes 10 years from now? And now they can use the AI pin that you've already been signed up for, that you've already been using, and now they could flip the script on you.
Exactly.
And now it's something you're already ingrained in doing, and now you're like, oh, okay. Now this thing that wasn't illegal or whatever Big Brother wants to, now it is, and now he's like, you may have already signed something that you're not aware of 10 years from now. And I was like, man, you know what?
Damn.
To think about that for a minute.
It's scary, right?
I'm like, you know, laws do change.
Yeah.
And things do change.
Trust the government.
Yeah. So it's kind of like,
not,
you know, it's, I told him, I said, you know, I'm just going to go into this thing as with my eyes as wide open as possible and not be naive, and try to understand what the pitfalls are, what the dangers are, and make sure that I'm approaching. I think everyone should approach new technology responsibly and with caution.
Yes, definitely.
Don't shy away from it, but approach it with caution. Don't be naive, and be aware. You know, I know it sucks, but read the fine print. Because we've given we've given Apple free reign.
Apple has like,
we've given them to use the
everything.
mic, and they're recording, and they can hear everything that is on your phone.
Like when everybody knew whatever from Apple, you sign an agreement, it probably in small print, you give us access to your all your assets, your kids' assets, you know, everything owns now belongs to us, you know.
Yeah. I mean, that was the scare with TikTok, right?
Yeah.
That was the thing with TikTok, not realizing, okay, it's a China company, and we've given access to all this stuff. You may want to rethink some things. And I think that was a good lesson.
Yeah.
And I think we should approach it with everything that we do. And
that thing with TikTok, of course, they're spying on us, right? Plus, the thing is, are they spying us? Is the Chinese government, you know, you'll break it down, but then like Facebook's doing it. Everything spies on us, right? So,
well, that is a good segue into a meeting that I had earlier today with a Dr. Brigitte Panuski, who wrote the book Wealth Care, and was talking about, you know, our individual data sovereignty, and how's the AI pen approaching data sovereignty? What's their data sovereignty policy? And I know there's big efforts in blockchain and smart contracts and tokenization of assets of, you know, how do we as individuals control our data and control our information? And how do we keep that from getting into the wrong hands? And there's technologies that can do that. And I think that's what's kind of interesting to me. And I said, well, when I get the fine print on the AI pin, I'll read it and let you know. Because, you know, I think her idea is that we can own our own data, our health data and all of this stuff, but then we can monetize it in a way that's safe for us, but actually give some important information, especially on healthcare, that could be monetized, that you can actually, that goes into research, that goes into other things that helps inform and better inform, you know, better outcomes in medicines and health practices and things like that. But you actually get paid for it because it's your data and they can't just access it. You go to the doctor and stuff, you know, they take labs and whatever else. That should be your data, not the hospital's data.
Did you see where United Healthcare got hacked? I think they own like 80% of like personal medical data. They got hacked. That's fucking beyond bad.
Yeah, well, and that's where I think the whole tokenization of assets, and I think smart contracts and protecting your own information is going to be key, because everyone's getting, like, I don't think there's anything that can say we're hack proof. It's just you're hack proof now.
You can say it all you want to
now, but tomorrow may be different. Yeah, tomorrow may be different. Yeah, and so that's the big thing. I think that we can own our data, control our data, control our information, and secure it in a way that can't be duplicated or used or falsified.
Should it be illegal for people to sell your data?
Should be.
Why come you think it's not?
It's not now, because you sign
the user agreements from Apple.
Yeah, you sign user agreements on everything that's in the fine print. That, you know, and you'll see it if you say, if anything ever you an opt out of third party, you know, see a little sign, check this if you want to opt out of third party marketing or whatever. If you don't check that, you've just given them permission to sell your information to a third party marketing company that can turn around and sell it to other people to make money. And unfortunately, most people don't know what that means.
No.
And so they don't check it. And then the information is out there, but then they go back and check it again. The information is still out there.
Yeah.
So are you sure they're going to do the right thing with it? And then is it going to be prosecuted if they don't use it the right way?
I know, right? And do you really have the legal firepower to go after like Apple or Google or one of these big tech companies? I'm guessing no.
Yeah. And I don't think it may be my naivety, but I don't think Google, Apple, AWS, you know, I don't think these companies are nefarious, and I don't think that I don't think they're purposely doing things wrong with our data. I think they're doing everything they can to protect it. I think the bad actors in the world are hacking it and getting it.
People on the dark web,
yeah,
kind of places.
Those people are, and you know, as fast as technology and AI is changing, so do the cyber threats change daily. And so it's like, how do you keep up with it? And eventually something's going to get through. And how do you mitigate that damage?
Yeah. So next, you want me to ask you about your t-shirt, Be a Better Man. Can you talk about Be a Better Man?
Be a better human.
Be a better human. My bad. Be a better human.
You know, I just really found this, I like the message. I don't think we get enough positive messaging in t-shirts and media and social media. I don't think there's enough positive affirmations and encouragement. And this company in Bellevue is called Combat Flip Flops. And I haven't met the owner. I don't know the owner. I don't know the people. But I really think their marketing, their head of marketing is kind of ingenious. And I think they're kind of funny. And I think their tagline, if you go to their website, I think like Combat Flip Flops, and I think it says, bad for running, worse for fighting, which I think is hilarious, but it's true. They have a shirt that says, you know, pacifist, but it's passive and then fist. And it says just because you can doesn't mean you should. And I just think their messaging is very positive. I think their messaging is what we need more of. And so I stumbled across them. I love flip-flops. I'm the guy that's going to be in, you know, a t-shirt or no t-shirt with some shorts and flip-flops in the beach somewhere. They make great flip-flops, very sturdy, very comfortable, and I love them. And then I found these shirts that I was like, oh man, this is a cool message. And so I bought a handful of these shirts, and this is kind of like my Friday wear.
So, Jason, how do you, on a day-to-day basis, be a better human?
You know, I focus big on being a person of integrity, a person that's transparent. I try, you know, I'm not somebody I'm not, and I don't try to be somebody I'm not. And I'm always trying to learn. I'm constantly curious, and I'm constantly trying to improve. So, you know, I don't have a fixed mindset. I have a growth mindset. So I believe I can be better tomorrow than I am today, and better than I was yesterday. And I think that has served me well in my approach.
So, follow-up question. Why do you think so many humans are not better? Like, why do you think so many humans like kind of suck, so to speak, right?
Well, I don't think, I think the message in society is just eke by. I think it's just do barely enough. I don't think there is, the message isn't move life forward. The message isn't strive for excellence. The message isn't be better. It's if you're okay, just stay doing that. Like it's I see it in a lot of, you know, this is probably going to make a bunch of people angry, but you know, there are a lot of socialist democratic philosophies, and there are some good, but most that I have run across in Latin America, just the whole culture and the what's being taught from the government is mediocrity rules, and not trying to do more, work harder, get better, improve. You know, and I think that's what's missing in some of these countries. And if there's one thing that we could bottle here in the US is, you know, is I think the American dream. If you can make that a product and sell it around the world, it'd be great, because the American dream is that you can come here with nothing and you can create wealth and you can end life with much. And there's a path and there's an ability to do that here in the US like there isn't in any other country on the planet. And a lot of countries, that's not even possible.
No, it is not.
It is not. You're at where
you're
you're
born
at,
that's
and that's where you're dying. No matter how hard you work, no matter what you do, that's where you're at. So it kills any desire to be better. And I'm trying to say, you know, individually, and when I work with my team, I've been lucky enough to find, you know, some great people in Ecuador that don't buy into that. They haven't bought into the Kool-Aid that, you know, they do take two jobs, that they do want to make more money, and they do want to see better, and they do want to improve their lives, and they're going to work hard to do that. And I think that's the message that needs to get out there. I think we have too much today where people show up to work. The pastor at the church I go to said that in a message, that people show up to work and you should just be applauded because I showed up. Like, you know, I'm here, and it's entitlement. It's, you know, and he attributed it to this whole movement of sports where nobody loses. Everyone gets a participation thing. And there's no competition anymore. There's no winners and losers because everyone should be a winner. Everyone should be well, now as a kid, you're taught that.
We're not all special, right?
We're not
all
all
special.
Everyone is if they want to work hard, if they want to put in the dedication. But if they don't, then they don't win.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a big part of it. So being better, striving to be better every day is something that I see less and less of.
Yeah.
In the world today.
I said this in my podcast before. Like I have no proof of this, I have no scientific proof, but this is my experience being in the military, post-army jobs, where I'm doing out people I've met, whatever. It's like in every organization, there's 20% who are like, man, I'm getting paid $55,000 a year. I need to prove not only am I worth this, but I need to prove that I'm gonna make this company money above my $55,000. I need to get better. I need to prove stuff. Blah blah blah. Other 80%, they're like, I'm only getting paid $50,000. I only get paid $55,000. And there's an expectation like they don't try to improve. They do the bare minimum. What happens? The company recognizes the 20% is doing good. They promote them. The other 80%, they stay stuck and they complain. And they file complaints, whatever, right? I just think it's like the 20%, 80%, right? I'm just making that number, so to speak. And one thing with a lot of people, they think, like it's not nonprofit, right? Even with nonprofits, you got to add value, right? You got to, like, what are you doing to validate this company paying this amount of money, right? Like you have to do something to, is ROI, like, I think somebody told me, I'm making this up. Of course, somebody told me if Amazon pays $100,000 a year, they expect you to make them $400,000 profit per year, something like that, like it's not a charity case, right?
Right. No. And you didn't make that up. That is an actual proven statistic that on average in the workforce, 80% of the work is done by your top 20% of your employees. And the remaining 20% of the work is done by 80% of your employees.
And what companies mess up is that top 20% get burned out, or else they recognize they're not being appreciated. So they leave, and the company is left with the bottom 80% are doing shit, right? And then the companies go to shit.
Yeah. It's a statistic that is pretty standard. It is the way that it is. And I think the problem is bigger because you have people that, are, let's say, middle class, whatever that wage is, wherever part of the country they work, they're middle class. So they've got an education, they're working, they're doing things, but, they're like, yeah, I'd love to, be the CEO of my company, or I'd love to be the executive of my company. I'm never get promoted. But they clock out at 5 o'clock and they don't do any work until 8 a.m. the next day. And you go to your executives, and most people who have a poor mentality don't understand this. They think that if you're an executive, you work 20 hours a week, make, $500,000 a year, and you do nothing. And that's just not true. That's just not true. And
that's so fucking hilarious.
And those people, unfortunately, they don't have the bandwidth to do the amount of capacity that these executives are doing. These executives are involved in charities. These executives are involved in out of work activities that are part of work.
They're always on.
Always doing stuff, going to different events, going to different meetings. They're there early, they're late. They may not be in the office, but they're working on their way to the office.
Even their vacation,
they're taking stuff. And it's, do you really want that role? Because that's what it takes. Now and everyone's like, oh, you have to have a work-life balance and this and that. And I'm, yeah, you do. I agree with work-life balance. I believe that the only reason, however, that you need a work-life balance is if you hate your job, because you need to balance that negativity, right? If you're in a job and you're counting the minutes until you're off that day, if you're working for the weekend, of course, you need a work-life balance because you don't like what you're doing. Yeah. But if you actually find a career that you love what you do, I can work 60 hours a week.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm perfectly fine because, You know, you're not going to have an HR person go to the guy that spends 60 hours at the beach, relaxing and having fun. Stop doing that. You need to have work-life balance. You need to, you know, stop playing so much and work more. So it's a balance.
I know.
No. You only need a balance as if what you're doing is negative.
Yeah.
So my encouragement is find what you love to do, you're passionate about, and do that because it never feels like work.
Also, too, so like a lot of people talk about work-life balance. These same people like come to work at 9:15. The work starts at 9 o'clock. They come work at 9:15 with breakfast. They eat a breakfast at 9:50, 9:45. Then they take a break. Instead of 30-minute lunch, take an hour lunch. You know, they instead of doing the 40-hour work week, maybe 10 hours of work. You know, but you know they need life work balance.
Yeah.
Like for me, people don't realize this. Even though this podcast is like part of my business marketing, to me, this is part of my work-life balance, right? Because I meet interesting people. I drink big bourbon, you know, just to meet, you know, hang out with people, you know. So to me, even though it's like job, work related sort of thing, to me, it's still part of my work-life balance.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing that I think there's misconceptions out there. And I would, in our company, I even take it further because I believe in unlimited PTO, unlimited time off.
I do too.
Because but if you love what you do and you're producing, I really don't care. Now there's some old school mentality that says, look, if I'm paying you for 40 hours of work, I want you to work for 40 hours.
Yeah. Like you said, is it work 40 hours or production of 40 hours?
Yeah. So my thing is I'm paying you for 40 hours of production. If you can get that 40 hours done in 20 hours and you work 2 days, take time off, do what you want to do with the other 3. I don't care. Because if you're responsible enough, now that's the hard part, is finding a diamond in the rough. It is a needle in a haystack for the person that has a very strong work ethic, works hard, loves what they do. You don't have to chase them around and double check things, and they always take the initiative. Finding those people are rare. But if you find those people, you can just say, here's the goal, do that, and we're good. And they're going to hands off. And they're going to make it happen.
So that's an interesting point. What's your take on this? Is there any, I'll come back to that in a minute. But now, is there any future tech that really excites you? I know you're probably going to say AI, but like anything specifically within AI that excites you?
Well, I would go to the AI pen. I'm like a kid for Christmas. Like I can't wait for it to get here because it's the first step into this a piece that gets us into the idea of having a personal assistant that we can interact with verbally. I'm excited about it because I don't speak another language, but everybody that I work with speaks another language. And so I'm either constantly translating or translating text or whatever back and forth. And this will allow me to push a button, hear what they say, it'll translate it for me, and then I can speak back and it'll translate it and what I said. And I can start having more business conversations because it's getting into the old, I don't know if it's Star Trek or one of the ones, but just it's a universal translator, right? That it speaks 50 languages and translates 50 languages by hearing it and translating. So I'm eager to see how well that technology is. And if it could get to the point where I can talk to someone fluently in Spanish, have a business conversation in Spanish and not need an interpreter, that'd be awesome.
Well, I'm guessing the answer is yes, but anyone can learn tech, right? 8 to 80. Like there's no, like, you know, like everyone, like as much as I would love to dunk a basketball, that shouldn't happen, right? Like there's certain skills that you need to have, right? That you just like, everyone can be an athlete, everyone can be a singer, but everyone can be a coder, correct?
Yeah, everyone can get involved in technology. I mean, it's I think it's the great equalizer. You can be anybody, any race, any sexual orientation, any gender, any whatever. It's your mental capacity to learn it. Do you want to learn it? And if it's something that excites you. Now, I don't recommend someone be a coder or get into software development that doesn't have the personality for it. It isn't detail oriented. You know, if they're not detail oriented, it's going to be a tough road because, you know,
That's why I could never be a coder.
I couldn't either. Like, I'm not patient enough to go through like lines of code, but
Like, you want me to go through 10,000 pages of code to find one comma that's supposed to be a period? Get the
yeah,
fuck out of here.
yeah, I can't do that.
I ain't doing that shit.
Yeah, I don't have the patience. I have all respect for
Oh, yeah.
those that can. So it's definitely a career that's not for everybody to do it well.
Mhm.
But can you understand the concept?
Yeah.
Can you get your head wrapped around what's happening here? Everyone has the ability to do that. Everybody. And I think it should be open to everybody. I really get frustrated when, you know, we're big champions of women in STEM, especially in Latin America, where it is, I mean, women in the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics fields here in the US is definitely a minority of the total population. But you go into Latin America and it's almost non-existent.
Yeah.
Like we'll get 400 resumes for some positions, and maybe 10 of those will be women. Well, we're going to interview and look at those 10 first because, you know, there's no difference.
Have you heard of ADA Develops Academy here in Seattle?
I haven't.
So I'll connect you with them. So they're like a coding boot camp, whatever you want to call it, but they're mainly for like females, mostly minority females, right? So like females, so it's like they grants as a nonprofit. So I'll connect you with them. I know it's a lot of like many minority females, like just females in general, right? Try to like, you know, bridge that divide, so to speak, right? I think it's the students that get grants or like tuition free, something like someone pays for it. It's a year long, and I know this. Maybe 6 months ago, they had the 100% placement rate, but then the companies would like take the people on, they like stop doing it, right? So now it's like, so it's not as good as it used to be, so to speak, you know. So that's a pretty good program, I think. So here's one for you.
Yeah.
Something that's I'm making up, right? I'm exaggerating. So like 5 years ago, maybe 3 to 5 years ago, they're like, oh man, there's 20 billion developer jobs out here, right? We need new developers. But now if you're a junior developer, man, like life is not good for you, right? Like you're like, it's like you're trying to find jobs. There's like, I know developers, junior developers. Of course, I don't know the skill set, whatever. I only see what they tell me. Like, you know, I'm applying. Like, for example, for me, I hired a developer last year, right? And the job description was software developer intern. Had a 250 apply. At least 125 were like 5 years or more experience, even though it said junior developer intern, right? Like, how did this like happen so fast, right? Like, and like, if you're a junior developer, like, what should you be doing? Of course, they say, you know, put stuff on GitHub, have a portfolio, network. But like, I know some of the developers, like, they're like applying, and like,
Well, what we have was it 2022, 2023 have all these layoffs of Twitter and you know, all the tech companies massive layoffs. You have thousands of people being laid off. They're all engineers that now just flooded the US job market with, you know, now you have experienced engineers that were making $100 an hour, now unemployed. And, you know, but we're still not here's what I would encourage the developers is continue to improve your skill, continue to improve your knowledge, and get really good to separate you from the others, because we aren't in a place where we have too many developers. In the US. I think India may have a problem. I think India may be coming to a situation where
everybody and the mother's developer over there.
Yeah, they have so many engineers that if the world doesn't, if companies shift from outsourcing to India to somewhere else, that could be a problem. And I think because there's so many, and I'm encourage this to, you know, a lot of companies looking for good developers. If you can't find them in your area, like if it's out of budget, look for developers in the middle part of the country.
Oh yeah.
You know, instead of $100, $150 an hour, you can probably find 45 to 65 bucks an
All the
hour.
great developers are not in the Bay Area, not all in Seattle, not all in Boston. There's great developers in like Indiana, Kentucky, Florida,
Well, you find cost
Texas.
effective,
Cost
and
effective,
you'll
yeah.
find people that know what they're doing in other areas. And I think we've just been so used to, well, you need to come into the office and you need to be here within
Yeah.
driving distance. Well, then now you're limited to,
Yeah.
you're in the most expensive area
Yeah.
for developers. Now, don't get me wrong. There are plenty of developers that are here in the Seattle area that are worth every penny of whatever they're getting paid. Whether that's 300K, 500K a year, whatever they're getting paid, they're worth it. No problem. Brilliant. Pay them. Don't try to undercut them. Don't take away their job. No problem. But if you're looking to add and you're like, well, we don't have it in the budget to pay $100 to $200 an hour for a developer or two developers, but man, if we could get a developer for 35 to 55 bucks an hour,
Yeah.
that'd be great. Well, give me a call.
Yeah.
Because, you know, teams like us, we can find those all day long here in the US. They don't even have to be.
Here's one for you. It's like all these companies out there, you know, like they're all of them say, like, you know, there's a lot of companies doing what you do, right? All of them say,
millions.
they all
We're
say,
not unique.
we use the top 1% developers from Latam, Ukraine. Like, are you serious? All you have the top 1% of talent, right? Like, now how can companies say that? Of course they can say what they want to, right? But like,
Well, they can, you know, I think it's Toptal. Toptal says they're the top 3% of the developers. Well, what they do is they take the top 3% of all the resumes that are the top, and then from those, that's what they build their pool from.
Yeah.
Still doesn't mean that, you know, there shouldn't be some testing.
Yeah.
They go through that type of thing.
Yeah.
And again, you know, that is subjective, because what does that mean? The top 3% on what criteria? What KPIs are you looking at? How are you analyzing this top 3%? Type of 3% and what? You know, because I can tell you that what I've learned in these short 2.5 years of being on this side of the technology, having a developer with the right attitude that's flexible and that works hard and is just genuinely curious and likes to solve problems and is quick, I'll take that person all day long versus the top 3%. Like that may be the top 70%, top 5, you know, who knows? But it's attitude and longevity that I think is the deal, because in what we do, the issue is, what do you do when the project ends and you don't have another project lined up
that's a great question.
in that in between time?
Yeah.
Well, what a lot of companies, larger consulting companies, they just keep their guy on the bench or their gal on the bench, and they go training or whatever until the next thing comes. I mean, 1, 2, 3. Well, that's eating into your profit margin.
Yeah.
If they're sitting there not generating revenue. So, you know, we try to find long-term solutions, long-term projects, and developers that will stick with us long-term.
So what does the developer have to do for you to say, okay, hey, Jason Cavness, I appreciate your efforts, but you're not working out. We got to part ways. What would I have to do to like?
Well, because we use an agile Scrum methodology, you know, they need to be able to develop. They need to produce the amount of code and progress with the project as it's assigned to them. If they're doing that, they're golden.
Okay.
If they aren't doing that, then that's a problem. If they're slowing down the progress, that's a problem. The other thing could be personality, right? If they're just difficult to get along with, if they're creating a toxic environment on the team. Because one thing I've learned about developers is good developers, most of them are really hypersensitive, and they thrive in the perfect environment. And if the environment isn't perfect for them, it's really challenging to get good productivity out of them. So I think I don't think it's all on the developer. I think it's a shared responsibility of what kind of environment is the client creating if the client's managing the project, and making sure that we're helping to coach that environment to be conducive for our developers that we're placing there to be successful, our software engineers to be successful.
Okay. So follow-up question. Like, I have no idea if you're hiring, how your hiring process works. Propose a developer work listen to this. Like, I want to come work for Jason in this company, right? What do they have to do? Like, they have to like reach out to you. They have to like send you a portfolio. Like, how does someone like, hey, look at me, I'm a developer, I want to be part of your team?
So we have people reach out to us, connect with us on LinkedIn. They send a resume to info@q360s.com. But when we have a position open for a project, we will open a LinkedIn job posting, and we usually will promote it for a week and then take all of those CVs and resumes that we get throughout that week, and then we'll start qualifying them. And because we take them from all over the world, we just qualify, where they're at, what are their requirements, all of that. We do a code testing. We do a technical interview.
Does the client interview them also, or just only you interview them?
After we've done that and we've narrowed it down to, okay, these developers have been code tested, they've been technical interviewed, maybe even they have a live code challenge that we walk through and see where their skill set is, a little bit fine tune that. Once that's done, then those qualified for the position will go to the client, and the client will say, okay, for this one position, or maybe we have 3 or 4, we interview, and this one's let's try this
Now,
one.
do you ever say, like, suppose a client picks, Jack, do you ever say, I understand why you picked Jack, but if it was me, I would pick, Susan, based on these factors?
No, because we leave the final decision is the client.
Okay, all right.
The client decides.
You don't try to influence it at all. You just say, like, here's 10 people to interview, and just let me know who you pick.
Yeah. No,
Okay.
we will screen them so they're qualified.
Okay.
So everyone has met
So in theory, there's no bad choice for them.
No, the client gives us a detailed job description and skill set description of what they want, and then we get that, and we'll give like 4. If it's for one position, we usually give 3. 3 that are qualified for that to pick from, that we've already vetted and tested and whatever. And if we work as a staffing partner, let's say we're busy and we don't have the resources to go through that process, we may work with a staffing partner that has the same philosophy, does the same process that we do. Say, hey, we have a client that needs one, whatever. Go through your database and go through your process, and they will give us 3 or 4 that meet that criteria. And then we'll reach to the client and say, okay, here's 4. Which one do you want to interview? And we want to interview all 4. They'll look it over and they'll decide.
How about the situation? Suppose, like, I'm making this up again. Let's say you have like 5 people in your team working on a client, right? And suppose the product manager comes to you, hey, Jason, I know this client's getting a lot of money, but man, they're straight up jackasses, right? They fucking treat us like shit. They're unreasonable. Like, if it was up to me, I would not work with them again in my life. But it's your company. What do you want to do?
No job, not all jobs are good jobs.
That's very true. Very true.
And ultimately, if my project manager's coming to me saying that, chances are we've heard that from the software engineers as well. Like, they're just not happy on this project. It's not being run well, the client. And that tends to happen more in founder and startup companies that,
unreasonable expectations.
Yeah, just they're new. They don't understand the process. They think it's one thing when reality is something completely different. And then assumptions. And then when you actually get into the project, it turns out, there's a lot of things that could go into it that could create an environment where, okay, this project isn't worth it.
Let's suppose I'll make this up again. Like, suppose it's a 6-month project. You're 2 months in. You just like refund them all the money they might have paid you, or
I believe the only way that happens is if we as a company didn't do our discovery and do our initial analysis of the project well to begin with. So we would own that.
Okay.
You should never if you are professional and you know what you're doing, never analyze and propose a solution to a client and then 2 months afterwards you want to walk away from it. It's not on the client. It's not on the client at that point. It's on, we didn't do enough to discover and really understand what was the full deal. So you need to have people that have really experienced asking questions, asking direct questions and getting direct answers, and then putting it all in paper in a contract that says, well, this is what we're going to do. And if it falls out of this, then this is how we're going to respond to it, and detail all of that out. If you can do that, you're going to make it through the 6-month project. Now, maybe if you see the 6-month project, this was not a good project for us. We ended up losing it. And we've been in situations like that where, hey, the way we started this thing versus what happened and all the overruns and everything, we're finishing it, but we are passing this on. We're not continuing on with it. We can't continue with this client, or we can't continue with this project because it's just not, it's not in our wheelhouse, or there's a better team that's suited because of new things that came up during the project, or a transition away from what our skill set is, or whatever happens. And usually with founders and with, new startup ideas, things change.
So Jason, you already talked about your company some. Can you go into more detail about how it got started, what you're focused on now, and your future vision for the company?
Yeah. So I think, so we got started by, in the summer of 21, being able to work from Ecuador. So being able to just experience working from another country. And I've always been kind of entrepreneurial in my approach to things. And so, decided to start a company, and I didn't just arbitrarily start, oh, let's do this. I picked, what, if I was going to start a company, what would it be? Would it be a coffee stand? Would it be a car wash? Would it be a McDonald's franchise? What would it be if I was going to be an entrepreneur and start a company? Well, I love technology. I love everything about technology. I think it's fascinating. I'm curious about it. And so I want to be involved in something technical. I did go to school at the Art Institute of Seattle for 3D computer animation, web design. So I enjoy, that side of it. And so I thought, AI is coming around. I feel like there's some social issues going on in the world now that I'm seeing LATAM from an Ecuador standpoint. I could help and provide a solution. And I've been doing consulting in one way, shape, or form for 30 years. And I've built a reputation of being able to do thorough discovery, ask the tough questions, and see the bigger picture, and build trust with my clients. And so I felt, okay, let me take that, what I know I'm good at. I'm not good at coding. I love technology. I love everything about it. I am really good at solving problems. I'm really good at understanding the client's problems and coming up with solutions that would solve that problem that meets what the client's looking for. So based on that, technical consulting, it's flexible enough. I can do it from anywhere. I can get internet access in the world. And it allows me to work with people from all over the world. And I love that. Our vision is to, like I said, we raised money initially. We ignorantly, we started in the wrong direction. After the first year, we've made some adjustments. And this is a long-term play for us. So this vision isn't okay, we got to reach X profitability by this time or we're shutting our doors. This is an ongoing thing that I'm going to keep doing this until I die. And so just building quality, keep moving forward, keep looking for opportunities to help. We're not trying to sell a solution. we're trying to find opportunities where we can come in and work with the client to achieve what they're looking for. And not all clients are good clients, so we're not just trying to take on the world. I mean, I get solicited every day by lead gen places and other places that want to do that. And I'm like, it's great that what you do, but we don't have that capacity. Like if really we paid you to do a 6-month campaign to generate leads for us, we would be buried. Like, because we're a small team. I want to make sure that as we grow, we're growing methodically. We're adding quality, we're improving. I don't want us to grow too fast and then our quality stinks. We're creating bad experiences for the client. We're turning out bad projects. I would rather just do one successful project at a time. We had 3 projects going at one time, and that's fine. But maybe in a couple years, maybe in a year, we'll combine with another company that's been a little bit bigger, still doing the same thing, but doing it at a bigger scale and help more people. So that's the vision, I think.
So you went to Evergreen College, right?
I did.
So I think perception of most people, including me, is like Evergreen College, no grades. I'm like, man, no grades. So I have to do no work. I just fucking get drunk all day and party. I need to go to school, right? But I'm pretty sure it's not like that, right? Can you explain like the no grade concept? You have to like turn papers in or something like that, or you have to analyze yourself or something, grade yourself, right? It seems so like left liberal, hokey pokey, unicorn rainbows,
It's a lot of that. No question. It is an extremely liberal, and just for the viewers, I'm right of center. I'm not extreme right, but I'm right of center. But it is a very, very liberal, far left university. And I will say that I've learned the most in life from attending there. Because one thing I attribute Evergreen to is that they have the Olympia campus and they have the Tacoma Hilltop campus.
I didn't know about Tacoma Hilltop campus.
So
I didn't know about that.
So the Evergreen Olympia, I would say, is more your greener, hippie, liberal. There's a lot more dealing with nature and programs that deal with that there. When you get into the Hilltop, you're dealing with inner city urban issues and it from a very socialist viewpoint, very left viewpoint. And the nice thing is I'm coming in with my right of center thinking, and we are taught to deliberate and discuss and value everybody's viewpoint. So I'm able to be in a civil, like all of the discussions we had, it was civil. We could all express our opinions if it was very different from what was going on in the room. So everyone could share their own opinions. We learned to look at things from different viewpoints and accept different people's viewpoints to things. And so I found that very valuable. And it it made me a better listener. It made me a better person in not tuning people out that maybe look different than me or have a different background than me. And it was amazing. No grades. Yes. Now they can convert your transcript to grades if you're going to another university.
I heard it
requires
I heard
that.
it's hard to go get into like other master's degree programs because there's no grades.
No, you can do that, and they'll give you a grade based on, because you have to, everything is like a write-up.
Yeah.
So your grade is a write-up of what you've learned and your professor what they believe you've learned based on the work you've turned in. So there's definitely work. There's definitely quizzes. There's definitely tests. There's definitely projects that you have to do.
So no partying 24/7.
You can, and you can really show up, and it's one of those schools that you get out of it what you put into it. So if you want a very shallow, just a degree to hang on the wall and you know nothing, you can be that person. And you can put very little effort in and still pass and still get a degree. But, and I think if I would have went there right out of high school, that's probably what I would have ended up with. But because I went there later in life and I was an adult that was working, and I was going to school at night, it was important for me to really learn what I was going to school for. And so I was able to you can get a very deep education, go very deep with things if you apply yourself. And that's what I liked about Evergreen.
So is it safe to say you're pretty happy with your experience there?
Yeah, I would recommend Evergreen to any student that has a thirst for knowledge, that wants to explore and really push the envelope of their learning. If you need a lot of rigid guidelines and grades, and that's what you need, Evergreen's not for you.
Are you an active alumni with them?
I'm an alumni. I'm not an active alumni.
Okay.
But I have nothing negative to say about Evergreen, because it's the first experience where I, as a right of center political belief and a Christian person, could go and have conversations with someone who's, in the gay, lesbian, trans community, non-gender specific, whatever. They have clubs and groups for everything under the sun. And we can sit and talk about an issue, and we can listen to everybody's viewpoint and walk away from it better because of it.
Why do you think y'all could do that Evergreen, but then like everywhere else in America, that shit ain't happening, right? Everywhere else, they're cussing people out, the uncivil, like my way or the highway. Why do you think Evergreen was so conducive to that?
Well, I think the faculty are very, it's taught that. I mean, they're saying, look, this is what we do. And at the beginning of every class, the beginning of every semester, beginning of every, it's really ingrained in the professors that are there, of saying, here's how we're going to conduct our class, and here's how we're going to conduct our seminars, and here's what we're going to discuss. We want to hear everybody's feedback on this or that or the other. And so they don't typically just let you like sit back and do nothing, and they encourage you to share what you really think. And even if it's controversial, even if it's completely against whatever was being talked about. And I think that's what America's about. And it's in a school environment and it's moderated, right? So it's civil, and it's, things, maybe a student, whatever, get really heated about something. And, the professor will kind of tone it down. Like, look, you're passionate about that. That's great. Share your viewpoint, but it's okay that other people believe differently. And it's constantly reinforced. So, that's your education experience. And that was my experience. And I went to both 2 years or a year and a half at the Olympia campus. And then I finished my last 2 quarters at the Tacoma Hilltop online. And the experiences were both different, but the same, in the sense that it was okay. I didn't feel, even though I was in the minority of my political beliefs and being more conservative versus everyone else's opinion on social issues or whatever we were discussing, I was still respected, and they still heard my viewpoint, and I respected them, and I heard their viewpoint, and I was able to walk away from that with a different understanding of the situation.
Do you think going to Evergreen made you more liberal, so to speak? Like, suppose you're like right at center. You think maybe I draw you like closer to center by being there?
I don't think I don't think it like converted me into like, oh, now I'm liberal thinking. I think I'm someone who's always kind of been in that middle 50%, the 25% on the left, 20% on the right. I've always been in that camp.
Yeah.
Some things I'll be on the liberal side, some things will be but I'm never going to be on the extremes, because the extremes don't allow for anything different. And that's what I don't agree with. I think we're a better species, we're a better humanity when we embrace everyone and try to understand things from their point of view. It helped me in my consulting and sales career as a account executive at the different levels that I've been, and now I'm at strategic, a higher level. You listen more.
Yeah.
You try to see things from other people's perspective.
Too many people listen to answer, not to understand.
Yeah. And now the narrative is just, if you disagree with me, I shut you down, I tune you out, I don't want to hear what you have to say. And that's not good for anybody.
What kills me is, like, suppose you're like, you have someone on the other side, right? And you're talking about 10 things. The person opposite side agrees on 9 of your 10 things, right? But because they don't agree on the 10th thing, you're like, oh no, you want to destroy them. Like, they agree with 9 things, right? I understand that 10 things is like the most important thing, but damn, they agree with 9 things. Like, take that victory.
Yeah.
And I mean, my thing is, like, they agree on 9 things. Odds are in the future, they'll probably come along the 10th thing, right? But no, they don't want to destroy them, like talk bad about them. Like, I never get that mentality.
It's a all or nothing, I think, mentality. It's not a mentality of tolerance. It's not a mentality of saying, okay, we can agree to disagree. I mean, it flies in the face of, to me, what I joined the military for is to fight and defend the freedoms of this country. That if you're a U.S. citizen, and even if you believe the exact opposite of what I believe, the thing that makes America great is that we can live in the same area, and you can be in your house and believe what you believe, and I can be in my house and believe what I believe.
Exactly.
And we can live peacefully, and we both can live lives of harmony, but believe completely different things.
Exactly.
I think that is what makes America great. And I'm not mad if people disagree with me. I'm not mad if they believe the opposite. I think that's what America stands for. And I think the people in the movements, even if they're minority based, that are preaching a message that's different from that, I really struggle if why they're not speaking American.
Yeah.
They're not talking about America, because I see America as, you could take somebody from every community that believes strongly in their community, equally strongly for their community. So Latino power, Black power, whatever community you're from, and everyone could go to a barbecue, have a meal, have a conversation, express who they are, and go home at the end of the day and understand, oh, I learned about this culture, I learned about that culture, and it's okay.
Yeah, I agree.
That's to me what America's about. And we're striving away from that.
So next question, if you're evergreen college, don't come at me. This is kind of a joke, but like, how do y'all pick classes, right? Is it like, okay, I can pick Tree Hugger 101. I can pick, how to be part of the PETA leadership nonprofit, climate change 2001. Like, I'm not making it up, of course, but how's the class selection pick if there's no grades?
It is, they have a thing called seminar, and they have it's kind of like a theme. And then there are different classes that are different aspects of that theme. And then there's one time where everyone gets together holistically, and there's like a speaker or a keynote speaker. There'll be someone that talks about a topic, and then everyone can kind of weigh in or give feedback or hear something that has to do sometimes with that topic of the overarching theme. And so, like, for an example, like, one of my classes was public data and public health or something like that. It had to do with public health initiatives. but it was from a like science data perspective. And so it's interesting because it's like, okay, public health, but then how does this one aspect of it overlay over public health? And we had to pick certain projects that you use this and had these resources to understand public health or address certain issues or certain topics. They had statistics classes. They had, a reading class where you're reading, several classics during that, and you're reading it like 3 times and talking about it. So, I mean, it has there's regular classes, but it depends on what your emphasis is, where you want to spend your time. Mine was public relations and political science. And so I actually, when I was at the 2009, 2010, I was at the Olympia campus for that part, and I was part of the legislative internship program. So I worked in the Senate and for that session, 2010 session, Senator Tim Sheldon's office. So I got to see and work in a senator's office and deal with case studies and help constituents with this issue or that issue, see how our state government works. That was cool. I mean, it was definitely a cool experience.
So Jason, is there anything I should have asked you that I haven't, or anything else you want to talk about?
No, I think we've covered, man. This has been kind of a long, good session, but yeah, this has been a good time.
Nice. Is there, you give a lot of we talk about a lot of things, but do you have any last minute wisdom or advice or anything you want to talk about?
No, I'd actually, really like to just thank you for this opportunity. I think, what you're doing here and connecting founders and in this area, I think it's a great thing. I look forward to seeing, Cabinet's HR continue to grow and to do great things. And it's nice to have founders, looking out for each other and trying to pull that community closer together. And, I would say that if you're a founder and you want to be a founder and you're of anything and you're in the greater Seattle area, I'd say reach out to Jason or myself, and we'd be happy to help you and point you in the right direction and, get you connected with different organizations or groups that can help you be successful.
Thanks, Jason. So Jason, can you share your social media so people can reach out to you?
On LinkedIn, that's it. That's all I have.
Okay.
But do you want to put it on the screen?
I'll just put it in the show notes.
Okay. Can you do that from your LinkedIn? Or how do I get it to you?
You just want to share your LinkedIn profile, right?
Just the LinkedIn profile. There. And that's the best way, because I think on my LinkedIn, I just got to double check, but I think I have the internet in. Not the fabulous best. Yeah. I think I have for sure the email address is there. There may even my phone number, but
okay.
You'll be able, from the profile, you'll be able to get to our website. You'll be able to get something to me.
Because you actually have a social media manager for your company, right?
We have, a part-time. We contract a part-time that does our social media. We don't do regular posts. We have 3 posts. We loaded one today,
But if I asked you this question, would you give me like 20,000 social media places, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, blah, blah, blah?
No, LinkedIn.
LinkedIn, okay.
That's all we do. I mean, I guess we have an Instagram and a Facebook.
Yeah.
That there is a thing where we post it and it posts all 3.
Yeah.
I'm only on LinkedIn because
I
use LinkedIn Sales Navigator and it connects with our CRM.
Okay.
But LinkedIn is where I'm at.
All right. Hey, Jason, thanks for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
And to our listeners, thank you for your time as well. Remember to be great every day.